Buccaneers. Just enter this nationwide keyword on our website. Grand, that's G-R-A-N-D. Enter it now, 953WDAE.com.
Play ball!
The home of your Tampa Bay Rays. We are 95.3 W237CW Pinellas Park, WRUB HD3 Clearwater, and the mighty AM 620 WDAE St. Petersburg, an iHeart radio station. It's Friday. From Town and Country to Palm Harbor and all around Tampa Bay, plus worldwide on iHeartRadio.
The gloves are off. I'm playing hardball. It's 4th and 15, and you're looking at a full court press.
You're tuned into the voice of the Tampa Bay sports fan.
You're gonna like this guy. He's all right. He's a good fella. He's one of us. Buckle up. Because you're on the drive with TKras. Afternoons on 95.3 WDAE and AM 620.
Yeah, welcome aboard on a Football Friday. Good afternoon, Tampa Bay. The Drive with TKras. Yours truly, Tom Krasnicki, presented by Moss Nissan, is on the air. Executive producer Chris Mathis on the other side, and, of course, you there. We are live in living color, don't you know, at 95.3 on the FM side. The mighty AM 620. And don't forget to download the new and improved iHeartRadio app. It's awesome. New features, the scan button, the presets. You can preset your favorite radio stations and your favorite podcasts. So you can do that when you go on there and put WDAE in your presets like you would do in your car, for example. And also, you can favorite your best podcast, your favorite podcasts on there. The Drive podcast, commercial-free podcast of this hideous show, can be accessed through the new and improved iHeartRadio app. You can listen to us from anywhere in the civilized world through the app. It is great, so download it now. Good afternoon to all of you watching us on the stream. We're on YouTube, Facebook, and X at 953 WDAE and AM 620. The phone numbers, you know them, you love them, now use them. Plenty of ways to interact on this program. 888-546-4620. That's the phone number. Text at 82945 on the Bartow Ford DAE text platform, where standard message and data rates do apply there. And all guests will appear via the Central Florida Behavioral Health Network DAE hotline. We got a huge show, a 4-hour sports talk extravaganza, the likes in which you have never experienced. It's a Football Friday. Yeah, and we're bummed. You know, Mathis and I were talking right before the show, and yeah, I was grunting like Todd Bowles. Like, the Bucs should be playing this weekend. We should be talking about Bucs in a divisional round. Tom Deckeroff should be on the air right now, previewing the matchup between the Buccaneers and the Eagles from the city of slimy, pathetic. It's not brotherly love. There's no love taking place in that city. Most of the people there are heartless, man.
Yeah, and that fan you talked about yesterday to close out the show, Tom, I knew we were up against the break and had to get out. That's why I didn't chime in. But that was disgusting, dude, that guy would even go out and say that. He has a daughter. He has a wife. To talk to a random woman like that is just unbelievable to me.
Just an absolute disgrace. And I'm glad somebody caught it on video. And you people have to, I'm not saying you people, I'm not accusing anyone in particular, but the general, rule of thumb and the lesson to be learned here is you just have to be very, very mindful of what you're putting on social media, A. B, what you're doing when you're out in public, because that will come around and absolutely bite you in the arse. And it did to this freaking guy. His boss found out what he was doing because he saw the video of him berating this Packers fan, and he got fired.
Third prize is you're fired.
Get out. So just be very, very careful. I mean, they're just some bad people in this world. But guess what? There are also some really good people in this world. There are some generous people. There are caring people in this world, too. Let's try and focus on that. Let's try and be the best versions of ourselves moving forward and try not to be an Eagles fan moving forward. How's that? Oh, come on.
Oh, man. I will say, though, Tom.
No. You insulted him a little
regarding that fan, also, big time thank you to people actually using social media for good by making sure that it was out there. They shared it. Everybody that retweeted it or quote tweeted it, favorited it, that's all helpful in finding somebody like that. And, you see a lot of stories or videos where people were just sitting there watching, videoing, not doing anything. In this case, it actually benefited that Packers fan that was getting bullied by the Eagles fan.
Well, that guy needed to be taught a lesson. And he, to quote Apollo Creed from Rocky IV, some people got to learn the hard way. Well, you learn the hard way. So did Apollo, by the way, in Rocky IV, but that's another story.
I should have broke your thumb.
But that's the, basic rule and lesson learned in life. Lesson learned. I know when I'm out there, man, I can't afford to act just like everybody else and kind of blow off steam just like everybody else. I'm always very mindful of my surroundings, very careful about the things that I do because you got to. You have to be that way. You have to, project, a sense of maturity and sensibility. I don't think I've done that entirely, from time to time, but I'm trying. I'm trying to be the best version of myself, just like Mathis is trying to be the best version of himself when it comes time to, trimming his mustache. He does that. And all of you out there need to follow suit. So anyway, I don't know how we got off on this tangent, but the bottom line is this. It's divisional playoff weekend. It's my favorite weekend of the football season outside of the Super Bowl, of course. And you're going to have two really intriguing matchups tomorrow and two more on Sunday. The late one on Sunday night is the one that we're all looking forward to, which is why the NFL decided to schedule the Bills and the Ravens from snowy Buffalo potentially as the late game on Sunday night. And that will draw a huge audience. Huge. I think the ratings for Bills and Ravens are going to be historic because you're talking about two teams, and it's a darn shame that one of these two teams will be out by the end of the night on Sunday because both teams have MVP caliber players at quarterback. We all know that. Lamar Jackson and Josh Allen. Both teams have Super Bowl aspirations, and one of these teams will not even make it to the conference championship game. The loser of that game on Sunday night is going to be crushed beyond belief. And the Kansas City Chiefs, you got to hand it to Andy Reid, Patrick Mahomes and company. Smooth sailing all the way through the regular season, 16-1. This is a team that clinched the AFC West on Christmas. And when they line up on Sunday, there's a number of players that haven't played in more than 3 weeks. Because once they lock that thing up, Patrick Mahomes got rested, Travis Kelce, Chris Jones, yada, yada, yada. And look, players absolutely cherish the time that they get to heal up after such a bruising season. Mentally and physically, it's a taxing NFL season. Now, 24 days of rest. Do I think the Chiefs will come out firing at all cylinders? Not necessarily. I do believe they will take care of the Texans, and we'll have our NFL picks a little bit later on here on the show. But I can see Kansas City getting off to a slow start because it's been so long since they've been on the field competitively. Talking about Mahomes and Kelce and Chris Jones and some of the star players that have been rested. They do have a problem at offensive tackle, and I think that's where the Texans could have an edge with their edge rushers, pardon the pun, and Danielle Hunter on one side, Will Anderson on the other. Derek Stingley's turned into a top 5 corner, and that's how the Texans are going to hang in this game. They need to find a way to put pressure on Patrick Mahomes. They need to find a way somehow to force turnovers and capitalize on those turnovers. So it's going to be an interesting matchup, Houston and Kansas City. That's the early game tomorrow. But I think Kansas City being at home, Andy Reid has a great track record when it comes to coming off a bye, whether it's the regular season or in the playoffs. He's 4-0 since Patrick Mahomes was his quarterback coming off a bye when they've had a bye in the playoffs. And Mahomes has never lost in a divisional playoff game. So that's what's going against Houston. And Kansas City's at home. That obviously will give them a boost. And I expect Kansas City to win the game, but I do expect them to get off to a slow start because they haven't played in over 3 weeks. 888-546-4620, text at 82945. And look, it's a bummer that the Buccaneers will not be playing this weekend because they certainly had the recipe that I believe it takes to win in the playoffs. You got to be able to run it. You got to be able to stop the run. And look, you got to be able to throw the ball too. You know, the whole adage of passing to score, running to win, I think the Buccaneers can do that. So I'm sure the Bucs, and I don't know how many of these players will actually be watching this weekend, but I'm sure they're going to be sitting down on their sofa or their recliner, and they're going to be grinding their teeth a little bit. I know I would be. I know Baker will. I know Mike will. Mike was very upset after the game on Sunday. I don't think he talked to anybody because he's a very competitive person, and he thought like they had a chance to make a run. And they'll be watching the games this weekend, and they're going to be watching a team in Philadelphia who I think could be had. I think the Eagles are vulnerable. I don't think their head coach runs a tight ship. If you look at everything that team has done on the field, off the field, the stuff that takes place on the sidelines during games where players are kind of jawing at each other, assistant coaches jawing at Nick Sirianni, other players reading books. I mean, I don't think the Eagles have the kind of championship culture that is needed to do whatever it takes to win games in the month of January and heading down the stretch and into the Super Bowl. Do I think they're talented enough? You betcha they are. You know, man for man, you could put the Eagles up against anybody. But I question just the overall structure and the culture that takes place, and it's been cultivated by Nick Sirianni, a guy who, you know, spent one game jawing at fans. Spent another game, you know, going after one of his players, and one of his assistant coaches got in his face too, in between him and the said player. And A.J. Brown last week reading The Inner Excellence or whatever the hell he was reading. And look, the Rams have something going for them. They're a well-coached team. They've got a quarterback that's been there and done that in Matthew Stafford. He's won a Super Bowl. You know, we saw what happened in that 2021 season in the playoffs with Matthew Stafford and Cooper Kupp. They had a big lead on the Bucs. The Bucs came back. They were able to tie that game in the ill-fated zero blitz by Todd Bowles. Yeah. I'm sure Todd Bowles doesn't want to hear that.
Say this one time.
I'm going to say this one time. I tried to put the pressure on Stafford in a tie game, and we got burned.
Yeah, you could say that.
Yeah, we did. Levante David was incensed after that game. Incensed. I have never seen Levante David more furious or more angry than after that playoff loss to the Rams a couple of years ago, because I really felt like the Bucs had a great chance of repeating. They came all the way back to tie the game. The Rams were scuffling, zero blitz, deep pass to Cooper Kupp, field goal, Rams win, season over. So this Rams team, since then, you know, they won the Super Bowl, and they've had, like Jason Light, like Les Snead has had a couple of really productive drafts. They've drafted really well. They infused that defense with a lot of good young playmakers, led by Jared Verse and Braden Fisk and Kobe Turner. I mean, they've got really good players on that side of the ball. Jared Verse has turned into a man-child as a rookie. And he's going to be tested because the Eagles have a top 3 O-line. They've got a tremendous running back. These two teams met during the regular season, and Saquon Barkley ate them up. And the Rams remember that. How should the Rams combat it? It would not surprise me to see the Rams come out and play a lot of 5-man lines, to be quite honest with you. In order to slow down Saquon Barkley, they're going to play 5-man lines.
Gave up 255 yards, 2 touchdowns in that game against Saquon.
Yeah, it was over 300 yards from scrimmage. So there's no question they're going to go and do whatever it takes in order to slow them down. And in my opinion, yeah, they're going to put 4 or 5 guys down on the line of scrimmage. They're going to play like a goal line defense almost to try and stop the run and force Jalen Hurts, who missed a number of open receivers last week, coming off a concussion. They're going to force Jalen Hurts to try and beat them through the air. So I think that's what the Rams are going to try and do. The Rams would like to try and run the ball as well. And look, they also have something else going for them. And Sean McVay made mention of this last week after they beat the Vikings. Southern California obviously is burning down to the ground. And they're playing for that entire region. And they're using that as sort of a rallying cry. Much like the Saints, when they came here to play the Buccaneers, they were coming off the terror attacks that took place on New Year's up in New Orleans. And I know Darren Rizzi was trying to use that unfortunate event to try and galvanize his team. Hey, let's try and win one for our community. They're hurting. Maybe we can lift their spirits, and sports has a way of doing that by taking you away from the everyday craziness of life. And look, for 2.5, almost 3 quarters, it looked like the Saints were playing inspired ball against the Buccaneers before the Buccaneers finally woke up and won that game and won the division. I think the Rams are doing the same thing. They're going to go out there. They're playing with heavy hearts. They know a community in dire need of something positive to hang on to, needs something to inspire them. And I think that's what the Rams are going to try and accomplish this weekend when they take on the Eagles. So I think the Rams have that going for them. And I think they're absolutely the better coach team when you compare these two teams. So I think that's going to be a very, very interesting matchup. Very interesting. And then you look at that late game on Sunday, man. And I think Buffalo, who got pushed around by Derrick Henry and the Ravens in that regular season meeting. Now, that was way back in week 4. I think the Bills are a better team. But if you're the Bills with the forecast calling for single-digit temperatures, like 8 degrees or something, wind chill, gusty winds, it's going to be a typical January day up in Orchard Park, New York, which means you better be able to run the football or else. And I think the Ravens can do that between their quarterback and their running back and their O-line and their ability to stop the run. Again, formula. Run the ball, stop the run. I think the Ravens can do that. And I think if you're Buffalo, you're going to have to employ the same kind of strategy that I think the Rams are going to employ, which is you put 5 guys on the line and said, okay, you don't have Zay Flowers. I don't expect them to play. Lamar Jackson beat us through the air, and I think Lamar Jackson could do that. Because even though Zay Flowers is most likely out of this game, he hasn't practiced all week. Didn't practice again today, by the way. You still have Mark Andrews. You still have Rashad Bateman. You still have a couple of options. Isaiah Likely is also a dangerous receiving option. They still have 3 guys that they can rely on in the passing game. So this is going to be big boy football this weekend. Who could run it? Who could stop the run? And when you figure that out, you're going to find out who makes it to Championship Sunday a week from Sunday. But all 4 games are very intriguing for a lot of different reasons.
And also adding to that matchup between the Bills and the Ravens, Tom, Josh Allen, 14-2 all time when it's below freezing.
No, he is the classic cold weather quarterback. I mean, he eats it up. And look, I like the Ravens in this game, to be quite honest. We'll have our picks coming up a little bit later on. And if the Bills lose this game, it's not going to be because of their quarterback. He's a wonderful player. And he will be the runner-up, most likely, to Lamar Jackson. I think Lamar wins the MVP. And that's the other thing. I saw what Lamar had to say yesterday, and you know what? Kudos to him. Because in this day and age, and a lot of fans also have a problem with players, chummy with other players of opposing teams. A lot of fans always had a problem with Gerald McCoy. But if you're of the line of thinking that, the other team, that's the enemy. We don't want to be fraternizing with the other team. Then you probably had no problem with what Lamar Jackson said yesterday. He was asked about Josh Allen. He's like, hey, listen, I'm trying to beat him. He's not my friend. I'm trying to beat that guy. And Lamar Jackson knows that Josh Allen is probably standing in his way of two things. One, a third MVP award. Two, a trip to the AFC Championship game and a possible meeting with Patrick Mahomes once again. So Lamar Jackson is all business this week, and he's heard the talk about his playoff failures last week against Pittsburgh. It was a really good showing by he and Derrick Henry. And look, Derrick Henry, man, is something else. Usually when you get older as a running back, you're supposed to fall off the cliff. This guy gets better with age. And with bitterly cold temperatures forecast for Sunday night in Buffalo, they're going to run Derrick Henry 25 to 30 times. And when you run a guy who's 250 pounds and who runs like he does, he'll run away from you or he'll run right through you. Guys will be making business decisions midway through the third quarter, early fourth quarter, when you're freezing your arse off, you can't feel your fingers, you can't feel your feet. Then all of a sudden, here comes this 250-pound locomotive just coming right down the train tracks, barreling down at you. If you're Matt Milano or Terrell Bernard or anybody, or one of those Bills defensive backs, that's not a scene that you want to see if you're a Buffalo Bills fan. You would love it if you're a Ravens fan. And look, Buffalo's going to try and flip the script, right? And do the same thing with James Cook and with, Josh Allen. They're going to try and run the ball. And I think they have more receiving options on Buffalo's end than on Baltimore's end. But with gusty winds, forecasts as well, maybe some snow, this is going to be a very physical type of football game. I think Rams-Eagles will be very physical. Bills-Ravens will be the most physical game of the weekend. In the harshest of weather conditions, by the way, in Buffalo. I can hardly wait. 888-546-4620. We'll take your calls and texts in a matter of moments. So, to that point, in terms of, hey, nice game, pretty boy, or whatever, yeah.
Nice game, pretty boy.
Yeah, I don't know if Lamar Jackson will be saying that to Josh Allen on Sunday night or vice versa. But to that point, last week, after the Buccaneers lost to the Commanders, there was an interesting give and take between two former teammates at midfield. Greg Gaines, the Buccaneers defensive lineman, came over and, after the game, shaking hands with the opposing team. That's just good sportsmanship. But there's always words and this clearly wasn't a joking type of setting between these two. But listen to the exchange between Greg Gaines and Bobby Wagner after last week's game.
Good job, baby. Yes, sir. Appreciate you. Respect, bro. Respect, Greg Gaines. Come on, man, huh? So you look old. Yeah, all right. Y'all go home, though.
Yeah, you get a little out of order yourself. So I don't know if you heard that. So Greg Gaines said to Bobby Wagner, hey, man, you look old. And then Bobby Wagner turns around and said, well, y'all going home, though.
No.
Put your feet up. Go grab the golf clubs, right?
That's right. Your season's over. Mine's not. See you next year. Now, there was no real disdain between the two because they were teammates with the Rams back in 2022. But I just thought it was kind of humorous to hear the back and forth exchange. At one point during that game last week, Baker Mayfield on one of his scrambles ran right through Bobby Wagner. Epic. And that's what Baker does, man. And he'll put life and limb on the line for his team. The guys understand that. His old linemen see that. His teammates see that. And that's why they love him. Absolutely love him. And that's why Baker is one of those guys, and we played his comments during the week, he's absolutely sick to his stomach at the fact that they're not playing this weekend. He's one of those guys that's going to be grinding his teeth, sitting on the sofa, if he even decides to watch the games this weekend, which I think he will, because he's a football fan too. but he's going to do it with some degree of bitterness. Because I feel like the Buccaneers should be playing this weekend. I think they are one of the 8 best teams remaining. However, they could not make the plays. They made too many mistakes last week. And it was Baker and Jalen McMillan. It was Graham Barton. It was Kalijah Kancey. And a lot of those mistakes were made by really, really young players. And you just hope that they learn from those mistakes, they move on, and they don't make them the next time around when they get their second opportunity. And these guys will get their second opportunity. The Buccaneers are primed to be one of the best teams in the league next season. And that will turn the heat up on Todd Bowles. He's going to have to deliver. In my opinion, he's going to have to win this division. He's going to have to make the playoffs. He's going to have to make a deep run to justify him coming back in 2026. And we'll talk to Scott Reynolds about that. He's going to join us at 4:30. At 5 o'clock, it's our 5 o'clock happy hour each and every Friday. Ronnie Lane will be in. The night train will stop by. We've got Marc Topkin also joining us at 5:05. So we got the whole gang back together. Me, Ronnie, Marc Topkin. That's going to be must-listen radio, by the way. The jokes will be flying back and forth, the insults as well.
Yeah, and Topper, I just want to say he already told me to give you a warning that you needed to bring it today.
Me?
Yeah, he said tell him to work on your ad-libs or work on his ad-libs before bringing him on today. So he's already throwing some punches,
well,
man.
Listen,
Boom, bada bing.
It's already been brought, tell him, all right?
Oh,
it's already been brought.
Stirring it up.
All right? You know, he better be ready, too, Mr. Pen and Paper, the Mr. Pencil Pusher there over at the Tampa Bay Times. He better be ready, all right?
Look what they're doing to this man.
That's what they're going to say. But Marc Topkin will be with us at 5:05. Me, Ronnie, Marc will discuss the Rays because there's a lot of news there. We've got mailbag at 5:30, NFL picks. So much to do between now and 7 o'clock. Great to have you with us on this Football Friday. TKras with you on your ride home. This is The Drive. Coming up, speaking of the Rays, latest developments on the Rays and ownership and where they stand. An interesting article came out today. Are the Rays at a crossroads in terms of their future here in Tampa Bay? Details on that coming up next. This is The Drive.
You're tuned in to The Drive with TKras.
And guys, we just want to let you know that the opening drive here of the program is brought to you by the award-winning Chattanooga Whiskey 91, available at your local retailer. Drink Chattanooga Whiskey, and as always, guys, enjoy responsibly. On this Football Friday, if you're out there on the roadways, be very careful, obviously. Boy, I saw a lot of people, and this is listen, if you're on the left lane and you're going the speed, get out. Get out of the left lane, because that's how accidents happen. Now, there are crazy drivers who drive way too fast, but if you're in the left lane, you're slowing up traffic and you're going 50, 55, there's no business for you to be on the road. You need to be on the right lane or on the shoulder, to be quite honest. And that's how accidents happen. And if you or someone you love happens to be the victim of an injury accident, you need to get on the phone and call my guys over at Catania and Catania, the personal injury law firm that's been doing their thing here in Tampa Bay for the last 30 years. They don't get paid unless you get paid. And they've been getting a lot of money for their clients. Almost $1 billion has been successfully recovered over the years by injury victims, just like you and me, by the way. So protect your rights and protecting mine. They've had my back since my mishap, and I'm grateful to them for it. They can protect you as well. So give them a call. Tell them I sent you. 813-222-8545. That's 813-222-8545. Or get a free evaluation of your case online at Catania and Catania.com, where they put families first.
is The Drive with TKras, brought to you by Moss Nissan on WDAE.
My best guess, wow, it is going to be an owner that we do not know. I don't think it's anybody local that, the names that you hear around town here. I think it's going to be somebody from elsewhere. And I do think once you get a new owner in, a new stadium deal comes together in Tampa Bay.
That St. Pete Times, Tampa Bay Times columnist, John Romano, you can read him at tampabay.com, and that was our discussion the other day when I asked them, look, in 3 years, where are the Tampa Bay Rays playing and who's owning the team? And he mentioned there is a good possibility that there could be a new owner, and that the new owner, whomever that new owner is, keeps a team here in the Bay. But that talk is now starting to accelerate to a national level. Welcome back. 3:35 on your ride home. The Drive with yours truly. Chris Mathis on the other side. We'll get to your calls in a matter of moments. 888-546-4620. So, to that point, an interesting article hit The Athletic this morning, written by Ken Rosenthal. And the headline reads, with the Rays stadium deal in jeopardy, owner Stu Sternberg's tenure appears headed for a crossroads. There's that word again, crossroads. And he goes on to say that, yes, the bond money has been approved, more than $600 million in public funding. The Rays have until March 31st to kind of figure things out if they want to go forward. The Rays have said that the cost overruns are going to be way too expensive for their blood. They're playing in Steinbrenner in 2025, so the revenue sources are going to be somewhat limited. Obviously, 2 hurricanes had a lot to do with that. The county commission delayed the vote. And look, I think it was somewhat justified because of what had just taken place. And I know the Rays felt like they were betrayed a little bit. And look, I'm trying to understand this, and I've been talking about this for 15 years. And quite frankly, guys, I've got a headache to the point where, and Mathis caught me in the kitchen before the show, I was taking, a couple of ibuprofen. Because I got this headache coming on because I read the story this morning, trying to formulate what we're going to talk about. And all I want is what's best for Tampa Bay, what's best for the region, what's best for the Rays too, because I have a high amount of respect for the Rays and the job that they do. And look, you can bang on Stu Sternberg for a lot of different things. The facts are, the Rays were one of the worst organizations in sports before he bought the team back in 2005. Fact. That's a fact. And their on-field product has been the envy of every single team in Major League Baseball. That's another fact. Their innovative ideas, whether it's, the opener strategy or the shifts that Joe Madden introduced that everyone started copying, the Rays came up with all of these creative ideas that other teams, even the big market teams that would spend 4 to 5 times what the Rays were spending, all of these other teams were mimicking everything that the Rays were doing. And the Rays had to get creative and innovative because they couldn't spend $150, $200 million on payroll the way a lot of their competitors do in the American League East. Red Sox, Yankees, Orioles, Blue Jays, so on and so forth. And the Red Sox and the Yankees were wild spenders.
The New York Yankees? The New York Yankees!
Yes, sir. And the Yankees had to, restock their team and pivot after, A, they lost the World Series, B, they lost Juan Soto after that. So they took it personally, and, they started signing Max Fried and Paul Goldschmidt and Cody Bellinger and this guy and that guy. They traded for Devin Williams, the Brewers closer. And Garrett Crochet goes to the Red Sox. So I think those two teams, are ahead of the Rays right now in the standings. But the bottom line is this. The Rays on the field have been the pristine model of consistency, one, that a lot of teams are trying to replicate. Now, when it comes to the stadium saga and trying to secure a new home for the future, there have been missteps along the way. There's no question about that. And I pointed them out on this show because I'm fair, I'm balanced, I'm objective when it comes to this sort of thing and this subject too. And the Rays have done some things that left me scratching my head that I don't agree with. The 2-stadium, 2-country deal was not a good idea. And I shredded that idea. And the Rays believed in that idea. You know who else didn't believe in that idea? The commissioner of baseball, Rob Manfred. And I think in the last couple of years, Mr. Manfred and Mrs. Sternberg have not seen eye to eye on some things. And that particular subject, I think, has been one of them. And now you've got this article by Ken Rosenthal, and he goes on to detail a lot of the things that we knew about what Hurricane Milton did to the Trop and how the Rays were scrambling around, and now how time is running out, and how the Rays have to meet specific funding and design requirements by March 31st for Pinellas County to issue the necessary bonds that the county signed off on, the city of St. Pete signed off on, so now it's up to the Rays. The Rays were hoping to open in 2028. Now it's getting pushed back to 2029. And a lot of people are wondering, how is that still possible? I mean, you would have to get to work right away, but I think opening in 2028, I don't know. I mean, I don't know why people aren't really talking about this as much as they should, but why is 2028 completely off the table if all these bonds have been approved? And the Rays have said, look, there are a lot of people that have to work on this project. They've got to relocate people. That costs money and time and yada, yada, yada. But St. Pete City Council approved their half of the bonds. The county commission did the same on December the 17th. That was like, what, a month ago? So, what is the holdup? Why can't we, get crack-a-lacking on this and get the people in place? And I know you've got to relocate people and do that, but I think the Rays could have been doing that, the last 3 to 4 weeks. And I know that's not an easy task to perform, but we got the green light, guys. I mean, we can go to work on this. And the longer you wait, Chris Mathis,
the more expensive it gets. Easy's the
bingo. And the Rays are waiting for whatever. And I think other people are starting to get a little anxious, if not frustrated by it. Rob Manfred declined to comment on this article by Ken Rosenthal. Sue Sternberg did the same. But there are certain very interesting portions of this article that I wanted to point out. The league considers Tampa Bay too valuable to vacate for, say, Nashville or Raleigh-Durham, even if Sternberg's best chance of extracting maximum value in a potential sale of the team is in one of those markets. The problem is Sternberg doesn't seem especially welcome in either Tampa or St. Pete, which is unfortunate considering how he transformed this franchise from a laughingstock into one of the best-run teams in all of baseball, which is absolutely true. But the other statement that Rosenthal mentioned is true as well, and that's something that we all been talking about. The leaders on the Pinellas side, I think, have had their fair share of frustrations with the Rays, and even the people on the Hillsborough side, they've been kind of balking, too, at some things that the Rays have done. I mean, the Ybor project was right there. And I think had Stu gone the extra mile, I think we'd be opening that stadium this year, if not last year, to be quite honest. So Ken Rosenthal goes on to say the Rays pledged $700 million to the construction before any cost overruns, yada, 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 which is something we kind of knew. And he also goes on to say that Tampa officials are also said to be lukewarm towards Sternberg. An effort in 2017 to build a park in Tampa's Ybor City never came to fruition. Nor did Sternberg's proposal to split the Rays' home games between Tampa and Montreal, an idea that the league squashed back in 2022. And that was another reason for the friction, by the way, between Sternberg and Manfred. Because once the players' union stepped in and said, listen, this ain't happening, you better go back and tell the owner of the Rays that we're never going to sign off on this, meaning the players' union. And Manfred agreed. He pulled the plug, and the Rays weren't too happy. So here's a part of the article that I want to read to you guys. Getting a ballpark built is never easy. The hurricane only added to the Rays' degree of difficulty. And even if the park in St. Pete gets done, who's to say that the Rays won't end up like the Marlins, locked in a 30-year commitment in a city where they have yet to succeed? Sternberg, a native of Brooklyn, who now lives in St. Pete, Rosenthal writes, seems to be one of the few who believes baseball can work in his adopted city. The team's experience at Steinbrenner Field in Tampa this season might be telling. The capacity is slightly over 11,000. Many fans might be excited to see a major league product in an intimate minor league setting. But if the Rays generate greater buzz in Tampa than they do in St. Pete, it will only reinforce the perception that they have spent nearly 3 decades playing in the wrong city. Sternberg's past and present employees swear by him. The team's performance reflects well on him, Rosenthal writes. If somehow the Rays can bridge the funding gap through corporate support, government support, yada, 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 perhaps this whole thing can still work. If not, then Sternberg should get out and sell to an ownership group willing to make a greater investment and negotiate a ballpark deal in Tampa. It might be the best outcome for all. End of article by Ken Rosenthal. So basically, we all know about everything that Ken Rosenthal mentions here. This is not news to us. There have been other ownership groups, I've said that here in the last 2 years, that have been sniffing around, wanting to buy into the Rays, if not buy the Rays altogether. The Rays have resisted. Stu would make about $1 billion if he sells the team. No joke, like literally $1 billion. He bought the team for about $200 million back in the day. Forbes estimated the Rays' worth at over $1.2 billion with a B. Now, if there's an ownership group out there, and I've heard from some people and rumblings that there are people interested, the complication regarding the stadium and the Trop and the current deal there has some people concerned, some prospective buyers. But I think at the end of the day, if push comes to shove, I think Major League Baseball is now starting to turn up the pressure on Stu. Like, listen, we want baseball in Tampa. You know, stop procrastinating, stop lobbying, stop posturing, get it done, or sell it to somebody who will then get it done. And I think that's the gist of this article, and that's what we've been trying to talk about and compromise for the last 15 years. Absolute mess. We'll talk about this. Marc Topkin at 5:05. That about the Rosenthal article and the Steinbrenner Field start times that we talked about yesterday that became public. Ronnie Lane at 5 o'clock, too, for the happy hour. You got Scott Reynolds at 4:30, mailbag at a 5 o'clock hour, all the way up until 7 o'clock. 888-546-4620. I'm telling you, we're going to get to your calls up next. Also up next, news involving the GOAT and his broadcasting gig that we've been talking about and speculating this week. That is also next.
You're locked in to The Drive with TKras.
It is The Drive with yours truly here on a Football Friday. We're all excited about the weekend. I hope you guys are excited as well. You know who else is excited? My guys over at Rude Air Conditioning, Ferguson HVAC. Air and water are two things a certified Rude Pro partner knows an awful lot about. You know you can rely on Rude to keep your indoor air comfortable. And obviously with the cold nights that we've been experiencing, hopefully your heat is working. If it's not working, you know who to call. And now you know you can rely on Rude to make sure your hot water is flowing too whenever you need it. Rude Water Heating is the industry leader for total water heating solutions. So if you need conventional tank-type water heaters, they've got it. Tankless water heaters, which is what I have, by the way. And with the exclusive backing of Ferguson HVAC, my guys there, your certified Rude Pro partners get the best products and parts when you need it. So for AC and water heating solutions, if you're having any trouble with your AC, or if your hot water's not working or flowing the way you want it, it could be a problem with your tank water heater. These are the guys you need to get in touch with. Connect with a certified Rude Pro partner. Do it now at Rude.
most accurate home value estimate at DuncanDuo.com.
The Drive with TKras on 95.3 WDAE and AM 620.
Yeah.
So what's the question?
Well, the question here, Tommy boy, is are you ready for divisional playoff action this weekend so you can continue to do your double standard type of business? A little bit? Welcome back, 3:56 on your ride home. So we've been talking about this for the last 2 weeks, and I have a great amount of respect for Tom Brady. I love the guy. I do. However, I don't believe he should continue to be doing what he's doing as a Fox NFL analyst, as well as being a minority owner of the Raiders, who, by the way, he does have a huge hand and influence in what they're doing this offseason when it comes to hiring a GM and hiring a coach. There's a conflict of interest. Am I the only one who sees this or what? So the story came out. I don't know if Adam Schefter or one of these NFL insiders had it. And it reads, Tom Brady plans on continuing his broadcast agreement with Fox for the foreseeable future. He's got a 10-year deal, $375 million, as we know. And that's a tough job to give up. And I get it. Look, if I'm Brady, I'm going to milk the hell out of that thing until they tell me I can't. But the wording is interesting. He plans on staying at Fox. And as you and I both know, plans are subject to change. Like if the commissioner, if more teams start to raise a fuss about this, and they should, by the way, then I think when push comes to shove, Tom Brady's going to have to choose one over the other. And obviously, he's not going to pick the TV gig, as lucrative as that may be, over being a part owner of an NFL franchise. I think that's something that Tom has been passionate about. He's been working towards. He found some investors. He bought into the team, and he did so for a less than market value, which pissed some people off too, by the way. But I think when push comes to shove, and that conversation is going to happen sooner rather than later, then I think Tom's going to have to give up his gig. Now, Fox has a Super Bowl, and I did make the claim earlier this week that I think the Super Bowl will be his final broadcast as an analyst. I'm going to stick with that prediction because I think this offseason there's going to be change brought about. And if he wants to have more hands-on control into what the Raiders are doing, then he's going to have to give one up or the other. All right, 1 hour down, 3 more hours to go. Coming up, more of your calls, 888-546-4620. I know I promised to take your phone calls, but, I got stuck in this tangent, and I'm going off and, expounding on things from different, categories. But we are going to get to your calls. Scott Reynolds at 4:30. 5 o'clock happy hour. Ronnie Lane will be in studio. Marc Topkin will join us at 5:05. Mailbag at 5:30. On the way back, my favorite weekend of the season. It's divisional playoff weekend. Who should be on upset alert? I wonder what the Bucs are thinking about. And if you're a Bucs fan, who are you rooting for this weekend, too? That is next.
You're locked in to The Drive with TKras.
And it is a drive. It is presented by our friends over at Moss Nissan, where their goal is to never lose your business over price. TKras and Chris Mathis alongside as well. And if you're thinking about getting behind the wheel of a new vehicle in 2025, may we suggest our great friends over at Moss Nissan. Their customer service is 10 out of 10, 11 out of 10. Sales department, awesome. Same thing, service department. And if the holidays have you down, credit card debt or holiday hangovers, they've got the cure over at Moss Nissan, right, Chris?
That they do. They also have 3 different locations to better serve you, but nobody down. Also, no payments are due until the spring.
I bought my last 2 vehicles over at Moss Nissan. With every vehicle purchase, you'll get Moss Care. Unlimited tire rotations and oil changes for as long as you own the vehicle. That's a plus, too.
So you get Moss Care, you get no money down, no payments until the spring. Plus, you also get to select from the largest Nissan inventory here in Tampa Bay.
That you do, and they've got 3 locations in which to choose that huge variety. They have a wide selection. Tampa, Newport Richie, or Brooksville, or hit them up on
One of us.
Buckle up. Because you're on the drive with TKras.
Afternoons on 95.3 WDAE and AM 620.
Great job, baby. Yes, sir. Appreciate you. Respect, bro. Respect. Red games, dog. Come on, man, huh? So you look old. Yeah, all right. Y'all go home, though.
Y'all going home, though. That was Bobby Wagner to great gains of the Buccaneers last weekend. Is right. The Buccaneers, unfortunately, will be home for NFL divisional playoff action, which really irritates me as much as it irritates you and Chris Mathis and everybody else. Good afternoon, Tampa Bay. Let's try and make it a positive Football Friday. It's 4:08 on your ride home with a little Steve Miller band in the background. He's a friend of mine. I saw Steve Miller a couple of years ago, Chris Mathis.
Where at?
He was here. He was at the Hard Rock.
Oh, sweet, man.
So
was he still pretty good? I know he's a bit older now.
He was fantastic. And thanks to my good friend Alan McBrayer, he knew how much I loved Steve Miller. He's like, hey, man, Steve Miller's here. I want you here, partying with us, watch the band. And I was there in the front row for Steve Miller Band.
Big time, man.
Big time, dude.
Big time.
Alan is just awesome people, man. Awesome people. He had a little bit of a health issue, and I'm hoping Alan is listening. He's an awesome person. Get well soon, and hopefully we can connect very, very soon. Great guy. Steve Miller Band was exceptional. Exceptional. I still have photos and videos on my phone, and I go back and watch it every once in a while. That was really a great night. It was not a great night last Sunday night, where the Buccaneers were eliminated by the Commanders thanks to some timely mistakes by the Buccaneers, or untimely. And great play by Jaden Daniels. And now the Commanders will be visiting the Lions tomorrow night. So if you're a Bucs fan, are you rooting for the Commanders? Are you not rooting for the Commanders? Do you have a rooting interest for anybody now that your team is out? Personally, I'm not really rooting for the Commanders. I love Jaden Daniels. I think he's tremendous. And I will, continue to say and reinforce what I said a couple of days ago, because a lot of Bucs fans are like, Bo's need to be fired. Another rookie quarterback beat us. This isn't your average rookie quarterback. It's Jaden Daniels is going places as a rookie. 6 fourth-quarter comebacks in his rookie season. And look, he's the main reason why Washington went from 4-13 last year to 12-5 this year. And a playoff win, unfortunately, over the Buccaneers. And now they're into the divisional round, where I think the Lions are going to take them apart. I don't think we're going to see many blowouts. Kansas City, Houston, I think might be interesting for a few minutes, because Kansas City is coming off a bye, even though Andy Reid is great off the bye, as we all know. But their starters haven't played in 24 days. So I expect a little bit of rust initially. But like midway through the second quarter, I think they're going to start dominating the Texans in that matchup. I think the Commanders are walking into the Lions' den. Pardon the pun, of course. Tomorrow night. Well, thank you, Coach. I'm here all week, by the way. And, I'll use a timeout when I so choose.
As far as the Commanders in saying that, man.
What?
Wow.
It took you. What?
Wow, man. That was good. That one was really good. You're on a roll.
No, I'm not.
You're rolling on a chair, at least. But anyway, I will say this.
Rolling downhill.
As far as the NFC is concerned, I am pulling for the Commanders, because if the Bucs
are?
Yeah, if the Bucs are going to get knocked out of the playoffs, why wouldn't you want it to be by potentially the best team in the conference?
I don't subscribe to that theory. Like when I was growing up as a Jets fan, like when they lost to New England in the playoffs, or to the Steelers or whatnot, I didn't say, well, I hope the Steelers win. No.
I'm not sitting there, but it makes you feel a little bit better, because it's a matter of, hey, we all hate losing. Everybody hates losing. But if you're going to lose, let it be the best team, right? I mean, it's different if you were to play a terrible team or a team that got blew out the next round as you're expecting with the Lions and Commanders.
I just think it kind of depends on who you are. I just know, and look, I can't speak for Bucs fans. You know, each fan is going to be specific in how they feel about.
Phone for 3 hours. Let me
well, get your ass on the phone, and maybe I'll let you finish. 888-546-4620. But if you're looking for a sentimental favorite, I think it's the Rams. Based on what's going on right now in the Los Angeles area with the horrifying wildfires, which really have everybody speechless at this point. Speechless in terms of what's going on out there. So I think they've got that entire community and the weight of that community on their shoulders as they go into Philadelphia this weekend to take on the Eagles. So that's one team that I think I'm rooting for because of everything that's going on in SoCal right now. I'm not really a fan of Kansas City. I'm not really a fan of Buffalo, though, you know, I highly respect their fans, as mentally ill as some of them are, and especially with the temperatures in the single digits for Sunday night and snow in the forecast. You know, there's a sadistic part of me that's kind of waiting and seeing what those social media videos are going to look like from the parking lot of Orchard Park prior to the game. Like, what kind of sick, demented acts are those fans going to engage in before that game on Sunday night in bitterly cold temperatures? Because somebody's going through a table that's probably going to be lit on fire, and that person will probably be rushed to the emergency room. That's how crazy they are. I kind of like the Ravens a little bit. I think the Ravens are coming out of the AFC. We'll find out. Maybe they'll lose Sunday night. Who knows? But one of those teams is in for heartbreak on Sunday night between the Bills and the Ravens. Both teams, Super Bowl aspirations. Both quarterbacks want to win the MVP. Only one of them will win it. So who is it? Is it Buffalo or is it Baltimore? Is it Lamar Jackson for MVP or Josh Allen for MVP? I think Baltimore and Lamar Jackson take the cake. I think they win the game, and I think he wins MVP in the process. We'll talk to Scott Reynolds in about 15 minutes. The 5 o'clock happy hour is coming up as well. Ronnie Lane in studio. And then Marc Topkin at 5:05 on the Ken Rosenthal article on Stu Sternberg and his ownership of the Rays. Maybe we're at a crossroads. We've been at that crossroads for many years now. And now the national media is starting to catch on. And now the story about the Rays is starting to get national steam. So we'll talk to Marc Topkin, Mr. Pencil Pusher himself. He's coming up at 5:05. Speaking of L.A., let's go to Mike in L.A. What's going on?
Hey, Tom, enjoying the show as usual, but this Rams-Eagles game is going to be a dandy. I'll tell you what, Cooper Kupp seems to excel in the cold weather games more than Puka does. And that running game now, that the best coach in the NFL, Sean McVay, in my opinion, has stressed the running game with Karen Williams. So I think the Rams are going to give the Eagles a little bit of a surprise here, Tommy.
I agree with you. And I like the Rams. I think they're a well-coached team. I wouldn't put Sean McVay above Andy Reid, but I think Sean McVay's second on that list, certainly. I love him as a coach. And I think the Rams are going to give the Eagles all they can handle, if not beat them outright.
Yeah, I agree. That's all I had for you, brother. Thanks.
Well, thank you, Mike. I appreciate you. Be safe out there. Let's go to our guy, Alex in Tarpon Springs. Happy Football Friday, buddy.
Oh, TKras, best football weekend of the calendar year coming up, and I'm jacked up. I waited for the thermometer to get a little lower to make the call because, you know, I'm a DC fan. I'll be attending my 9th consecutive Washington football team playoff game this coming Saturday, tomorrow night, as long as the snow lets my flight land in Michigan, okay? I'm going to be there with the Detroit fans. And I just want to answer your question. Listen, I got a lot of Bucs fans, and I know who they're rooting against. It's not Washington. We don't threaten anybody. We've been horrible for 25 years. It's Philadelphia. And I think a lot of other people around the country are rooting against Philly also. And, they got a lot of shenanigans on their sidelines. They just seem to, I don't know, ruffle the feathers of a lot of fan bases, including my own, because, we play them twice a year, and that's a rivalry. But, we talked last week, and I asked you, because we play the Bucs in the playoffs, what seems like every 5 years or so. And 4 of our last 10 playoff games have been against Tampa. All my Tampa friends always tell me the same thing, just like you did on the radio last week. We don't really view the Washington team as a rival or anything like that, but I know my Bucs fans hate the Eagles fans. I'll hang up and listen. Enjoy your divisional playoff weekend, my friend.
I will, Alex, and a safe flight out to Detroit, and have a great time out there. Commanders and Lions tomorrow night at 8 o'clock. And I think Alex is right in terms of the Eagles and their fans, especially after that despicable display we saw last week regarding one of their fans just completely berating, verbally abusing, like graphically verbally abusing. I mean, the vulgarities that this guy was using to somebody that he doesn't even know was just absolutely despicable. And he deserved everything that he got. The only thing that he didn't get from what I saw was just a punch in the mouth, which he absolutely deserved, by the way.
I just feel like if they would have done that, though, Tom, with all the Eagle fans around, they would have been jumped, right?
Probably.
Yeah.
And that's the risk you take. And I hear this from a lot of Bucs fans, too, that go up to Philadelphia. And Ronnie and Ronnie will speak to this when he comes in at 5 o'clock. And we've talked to many fans over the course of many years. And fans will call us up and say, hey, we're going up to Philadelphia. Any suggestions? And we would be like, yeah, don't wear your Bucs jersey at the games. In their house, yeah, you are taking your livelihood in your own hands. True story. So if there's one team that I absolutely want to see go down in flames this weekend, it's the Eagles, because of how their fan base acts or behaves or lack thereof, and how the team themselves go about their business. It's not professional or common to see the sidelines of the Philadelphia Eagles and what they've done all year long. It really isn't. It's not how you project an air of professionalism. Speaking of unprofessionalism, Craig is out in Vegas. What do you want now? What's going on out there?
Hey, by the way, that guy got third prize this week, too.
I know. Yes, he got fired. His boss found out about it. He works for some New Jersey firm or some electronics firm or whatever, and they fired his ass. Good.
Yeah. So, hey, I'm going to root for the Lions, and I'm going to give you some local interest for it. And Mike Martin, who's the director of Pro Scout Advancement for the Lions, is a Tampa native, knows his family so well. His brother Chris played in the league for a couple of years. Mike went to Jesuit, played at Vandy. He actually started his career with the Bucs a long time ago. He is a dark horse for some future GM jobs. You could look up some articles about him. But I would like to see a local guy from Tampa, born and raised, help the Lions win it if we can't win it. So I would love to see, from a local perspective, a local guy get the respect he gets, because he's done a lot of work for the Lions. I know his parents, and I know his dad's a little bit, his mom's a little under the weather here and there, but I'd love to see them get a Super Bowl for him.
That's awesome. And, I don't dislike the Lions at all. In fact, I like them. I like Dan Campbell. I love their coordinators. Aaron Glenn, obviously, is a guy, a former Jet, a former Pro Bowler. He's going to be a head coach. So I'm kind of rooting for the Lions because they've never been in a Super Bowl. They haven't won anything since 1957. So they're one of the teams I wouldn't mind seeing in the Super Bowl, if not winning the Super Bowl. And you want to talk about local angles. Another reason why I'm rooting for the Rams, not just because they're playing Philly and Philly's trash, but Tyler Higbee, the pride of Eastlake, is coming off a devastating knee injury. And then last week he had a chest injury, went to the hospital, was spitting up blood. And that tough son of a gun's going to play against the Eagles this weekend. That's toughness, baby.
Yeah, I do like the Rams getting those points, too. My only fear this weekend is everybody's playing to the overs, But last weekend, every game went under, and you still have weather this weekend, too. So I'm a little confused with the over-unders this week.
Well, I'll tell you this, Craig, and I appreciate the phone call. Say hi to your parents for me, Craig, out in Vegas. I think Ravens-Bills absolutely is an under game. I also think Rams and Eagles is an under game. I think those two games are absolutely going under, and I think weather's got, plays a big part in it. Commanders, Lions, that's an over, 100%. And you're playing indoors, obviously in a fast track. Lions are getting healthier. They'll have David Montgomery back. They're coming off the bye. And look, the over-under that the Vegas Wise guys put out there certainly shows it. 55.5 is the over-under for a divisional playoff game between the Lions and the Commanders tomorrow night. Like Houston, Kansas City, 41.5. I think that has a good chance of going under. I don't think Kansas City is going to score a ton of points. But Philly, 43.5. That's under. Baltimore, Buffalo, 51.5. Oh, are you serious? Is that the over-under for that game?
Let me double check.
Let me check the Hard Rock Bet app because I'm looking at ESPN.com. I'm looking at the Hard Rock Bet app, and we'll get a better idea because with frigid temperatures.
Oh, yeah.
51.5. Wow. Come on, dude.
Way too high, right?
Way too high. They're begging you to take the under. Now, these are two of the most explosive offenses, two great quarterbacks, two MVP candidates. But when you're talking about weather in the single digits, potentially, and snow and gusty winds, that's the forecast for Sunday. I think I'm going under on that. You got to go under, right? One would think. Oh, what's the name of that silly stadium that the Bills play in now? I'll tell you, man. It
Orchard Park? Is that what
Highmark Stadium?
There we go. Yep.
Sunday, the forecast calls for cloudy skies, the high of 22 degrees, but they're playing at night. The low, 13 degrees. So by the time we get to nighttime, and there is a chance of snow at night, the temperature is going to be anywhere from 8 degrees to 15 degrees, and the wind chill will make it feel single digits. So the temperatures will be in the teens at kickoff, it looks like, with wind chills in the single digits. And gusty winds, yeah, I'm going under. I really am. Your thoughts, 888-546-4620. NFL picks, Pigskin Pick'em a little bit later on at 5 o'clock. Ronnie Lane and the 5 o'clock happy hour. We'll be joined by Marc Topkin at 5:05, so we'll have some fun with him on the Ken Rosenthal article, on the Steinbrenner Field, the start times for some of these Rays games. We discussed it yesterday when that news broke. Mailbag at 5:30, you freaking people. I was just going over some of the texts from this week. You guys, come on. Chris Mathis, I don't know if you...
Come on, man. You don't think I did my job? Of course,
Chris
dude.
Mathis
I got you squared away.
He's got some social media one-liners and shots that some jabronis took at yours truly along the social media platform. Fire them people from social media. You're a bunch of idiots. All right, when we come back, speaking of the Bucs, boy, how disappointing is it for the Buccaneers not to be playing this weekend? What about Liam Cohen? Is he going to take the Jacksonville job if they offer it to him? Is he staying or going? What about Todd Bowles' availability? What about his job security moving forward? What type of changes might we expect with this Buccaneer team with more than 20 free agents? Scott Reynolds, PewterReport.com. Our guy will join us coming up next.
You're locked in to The Drive with TKras.
It is The Drive, and of course, you know, the 5 o'clock happy hour is coming up. We might be ordering a drink for happy hour when Ronnie Lane comes in here. You know that, playa. And if you're looking for a new bourbon in the new year, may I recommend the award-winning Chattanooga Whiskey. The Chattanooga Whiskey 91 in particular, it is awesome. It is a Tennessee high malt bourbon. It's crafted with that beautiful, smooth, clean taste I love it. You can mix it too, 91 proof. It makes for a great old-fashioned. So check it out. If you have a cigar with this whiskey, it is also great too. I've been known to do that as well. They also have a wide selection. The Chattanooga Whiskey 111, I've got that too in my cabinet. It is fantastic. The Bottled and Bond is also simply spectacular, folks. A heavy-bodied, smooth type of taste, goes down well. So check it out. Chattanooga Whiskey, that's the ticket. Ask for it today at your local bars and retailers. Drink Chattanooga Whiskey, and as always, enjoy responsibly.
Presented by Moss Nissan on WDAE.
It's a lot. The first thing you do is review everything you've done, see what they're seeing, see what you see, to see what you can change. Then you're always looking for fresh ideas, whether it's high school, college, pro, pee-wee ball. You're always looking for fresh ideas, whether it's pressures, whether it's runs, whether it's blocking schemes.
Todd Bowles and the Buccaneers have to go back to the drawing board after they were eliminated by the Commanders last weekend. NFL Divisional Playoff weekend this weekend. One of my favorite weekends of the year, and the Buccaneers will not be involved. So, who's to blame, and what do they need to do to get back on the right track? Welcome back, 434 on your ride home. The Drive with yours truly, TKras. Great to have you with us on this Football Friday. Let's get some more answers and more Buccaneer talk right now on the Central Florida Behavioral Health Network DA hotline. Learn more at cfbhn.org. He's our guy, Scott Reynolds, pewterreport.com on a Football Friday. Scotty, how are you, my man?
Good, TKras. How are you, man?
Doing great. So, give me your sense as to the Bucs losing last weekend. Obviously, a lot of Bucs fans thought that they were primed for a deep postseason run. Did you feel that way as well?
Can't really say that I did. I did believe that they would beat the Commanders, but I'm not sure that this was the team to go further than they did last year. So as it turns out, it'll be the Commanders going to Detroit. I don't know that the Buccaneers would have beaten the Lions again in Detroit. Their defense just wasn't playing as well as they did earlier in the season. Anything can happen, right, on any given Sunday, but it just didn't feel like this was the Buccaneers' year. I predicted a 10-7 record. That's what they finished with. So I'm not surprised there. But I really believe next year, if Liam Cohen returns to run this offense and there are some improvements on the defensive side, I believe that the Tampa Bay Buccaneers will be a Super Bowl contender in 2025.
I'm with you on that. And in order for them to do that, yeah, a couple of things have to take place. Liam Cohen has to stay, and I'll ask you about him in a matter of moments. And they can use a couple of guys on the defensive side, Scotty, as we know, an edge rusher, obviously. Yeah. There's a screaming need for that. And just as important as an edge rusher, I think corner is a priority need because Jamel Dean has shown that you can't count on this guy. He's a good guy. He's a really great dresser and everything else, being out and about in the community. But, Scotty, the best ability is availability.
Yeah, and he's just not available. And listen, this is Carlton Davis 2.0. We saw what happened to Carlton last year in the offseason. He was traded away. And I don't know that Jamel Dean has a lot of trade value, to be honest. He has one interception in the past 2 years, so he's not going to be a guy that's going to pick off passes. That was part of Carlton Davis's problem. And like Carlton Davis, he can't stay healthy. So, that's a 1-2 punch that got Carlton on the way out of town last year. It's going to probably do the same thing with Jamel Dean. Again, another reason is he has a high cap value. So I really believe that this team will be looking for an impact cornerback. I would draft one for sure early in the premium rounds, but I'd also look in free agency, see if you can have a veteran come in here and really provide some stability at that position because I'm with you. I think they need an edge rusher. They certainly need inside linebackers. They also need a cornerback or two as well.
Scott Reynolds, pewterreport.com, is with me here on The Drive. So, Levante David, you're talking about inside linebackers. I was there in the locker room with you on Monday, and, he talked to everybody, and I had a couple of words with him afterwards. So, what he said was, my mind and my body both have to be in agreement, but he also told us that he loves the game. He can still impact the game. That leads me to believe, Scotty, that I think he's going to take some time off, but I think he'll be back next year. What say you?
Possibly. All right, they're in that year-to-year mode that Rondé Barber was in, signing a series of one-year deals at the end of his career in Tampa Bay. I don't know that Levante David has the heart to go anywhere else and play, so I think it's the Buccaneers or bust. Bust meaning, hopefully, a bust in Canton, Ohio, because I do believe he's had a Hall of Fame career. I don't know. He turns 35 pretty soon here at the end of the month, and he's still an effective player. He's not as good in coverage as he used to be, and I think playing down in and down out probably took a toll on his body. Just lost a little bit of a step in coverage. Still a very good tackler, very good blitzer, and certainly the leadership value is there too. Given his age, I wouldn't mind bringing him back at all and maybe platooning him a little bit, right? I mean, bolstering that inside linebacker room, Deion Jones is back. We'll see what he has to bring to the table next year if he makes it out of camp and still on this roster. Servasi Dennis's shoulder is completely surgically repaired, so that's a good sign. He showed some interesting flashes at the beginning of the season. He might be that inside linebacker to replace KJ Britt, who I don't think will be back, as he's a free agent and he's not starting caliber material at all, probably just a special teamer. So they're going to have to get another linebacker or two, either in the draft and free agency. And I'm not opposed to bringing Levante David back, but if I do, I maybe want to rotate him with another player and another younger up-and-coming player to kind of preserve Levante throughout the entire season and not put 95 to 100% of the snaps on his 35-year-old body each game.
Shaq Barrett, really interesting free agent. The Bucs brought him back, played sparingly in 2 games. You talked about it in your Fab 5 article at pewterreport.com. What do you think happens there?
I'm not sure. I didn't see enough to tell me if he still has the first step or not. Maybe you re-sign him to a cheap 1-year deal, bring him to camp without the guarantee he's going to be on the team. The last version of Shaq Barrett, the team didn't like so much, so they released him. And then he retired. So I don't know. I think this is a cheap 1-year deal loaded with incentives, and just to see if Shaq Barrett, 2 years removed from that torn Achilles, if he still has that first step or if he's regained a first step without much mileage on his tires. So he's really a wild card. I would not count on him to make the team. If I did sign him, he would almost be a luxury signing and just some insurance in case something happens. But really what the Buccaneers need to do is find an impact alpha edge rusher. Yaya Diaby came on in every category except for the sacks. But there's something final about sacks, TKras. Like, you can get a pressure on a play. Mm-hmm. You can get right in the quarterback's face, get a pressure on him, and the PFF will count it as a pressure. But the quarterback can still throw a touchdown on that so-called pressure, right? Sacks have a finality to them, especially on third down. They lead to punts, right? They can also be sack fumbles, which lead to turnovers. So sacks are better than pressures, and he only had 4.5 sacks this year. So I think Yaya Diaby's a great starting caliber player, but I'd want him as my outside linebacker number 2 on the depth chart. This team needs to go out and get an alpha in free agency, a guy like they did back in 2018, trading for Jason Pierre-Paul, for example.
It was a great move by Jason Light. Got him for, I think, a 3rd-round pick, and he came on, and he was incredible, was also a great locker room guy and leading them to that Super Bowl. Scott Reynolds is with me. So yesterday, Liam Cohen interviewed up in Jacksonville, and to our knowledge, and maybe you can tell me, is this the only team that has reached out to him?
So far, that's the case. He has not heard from the Las Vegas Raiders. However, if John Spytek ends up getting that job as the general manager out there, then you might see the Raiders have some interest in Liam Cohen. I think Ben Johnson might be the front runner out there. Tom Brady has been a long-time admirer of what he's been able to do up there in Detroit. He's just a little bit of an older version of Liam Cohen and done it a little bit longer. But there's a lot to like about Liam Cohen. And the Jaguars, if they don't go with Liam Cohen, that'll be a blessing for the Buccaneers. Interesting that they interviewed yesterday Todd Monken, the Ravens offensive coordinator and the former Buccaneers receivers coach and play caller under Dirk Cutter. That is probably a good sign, because I think Todd Monken is much more well-equipped to become a head coach at this stage of his career than certainly Liam Cohen has as a first-year play caller. I mean, you look at what he did here in Tampa with the offense. Then he went to Cleveland for a year. Actually worked with Baker Mayfield there with the Browns. Then went to Georgia, won a couple of national titles with the Bulldogs. So even though he's an older coach at 58, very relatable to today's younger players. That's key. He's a leader of men. He's got some feistiness. Reminds me a lot of Bruce Arians, to be honest, right? Arians got his first head coaching gig at age 61 out there in Arizona, right? Monken, now 58, has yet to lead a team outside of Southern Miss back in college. But I think he's ready. And you look at what he's done, going from Stetson Bennett, TKras leading the Georgia Bulldogs to 2 national championships with Stetson Bennett, a walk-on.
Right.
And then 2 years at Baltimore, taking Lamar Jackson's game to new heights and that offense that Baltimore has. He is so good and such a creative play caller. If I'm a betting man, if I'm Jacksonville, I think I'd want to go with a more proven guy like Todd Monken to work with Trevor Lawrence in that offense to lead my franchise rather than Liam Cohen. And that's no knock on Cohen at all. And that would actually be music to Buccaneer fans' ears if Cohen did this organization a favor, right? And getting to keep Liam Cohen, perhaps.
Now, if Liam Cohen leaves, a lot of Bucs fans are panicking, but I'm trying to talk them off the ledge, Scotty. He's not taking Baker Mayfield or Tristan Wirfs or Bucky Irving with him. I mean, the offense is loaded, okay? And there would not be a shortage of guys who would love to come here and orchestrate this offense because of the talent that's here, also being on the fast track to becoming a head coach in the league. But in your Fab 5 article, you mentioned a very interesting name if the Buccaneers look externally for an OC in case Liam leaves, right?
Yeah, Jake Peetz is a guy to keep an eye on. Younger guy, 41, kind of in that Dave Canales, Liam Cohen, up-and-coming young offensive coordinator type mold. He was with the Rams organization, so he's from that Sean McVay coaching tree, just like Liam Cohen was. As a matter of fact, when Cohen went back to Kentucky in 2023 to be the play caller and the offensive coordinator for the Wildcats, it was Jake Peetz who was elevated from an offensive quality control position to the pass game coordinator for Sean McVay out there. And then now he spent the past year as the pass game coordinator in Seattle. So he's got some exposure to a couple different offenses, couple different coordinators. He had 1 year of play calling experience in the SEC, very similar to what Liam Cohen did. That was in 2021 on Ed Orgeron's staff with the LSU Tigers. So he's had some play calling experience in the SEC. That's a name to watch, an internal name. And also, too, Jake Peetz, he actually interviewed for the job last year, too. So Jason Light, Todd Bowles have some familiarity with him. But the internal name, the guy inside the building, if they want to keep some continuity, that guy to keep an eye on is Josh Grizzard, who's very well thought of inside the walls of One Buccaneer Place. He was Liam Cohen's pass game coordinator. And so he really helped out in the passing game, was kind of his right-hand man in that regards. Oh, and by the way, the Tampa Bay Buccaneers finished first in third down conversion on offense this year in the entire league, 51.1%. Guess who is responsible on Liam Cohen's staff for putting together the third down plays? Josh Grizzard.
There you go. That's a name to keep in mind. You can read the Fab 5 article. It's awesome at pewterreport.com. Scott Reynolds is all over it. He's covered this team for more than 30 years. Scotty, I appreciate it as always. Now that the season is over, let's get together. I've got plenty of Chattanooga. I got plenty of Chattanooga whiskey, my friend. I'll have you over.
There we go. That sounds great. We're going to be at the Senior Bowl in just about 10 days, Bucs fans. So stay tuned to pewterreport.com. Nobody covers the Bucs offseason like we do. These coaching changes, free agency, the draft. We'll be at the Combine in Indianapolis, too. So we've got lots of great offseason content coming with regards to Tampa Bay, their free agency plans, as well as the draft.
I can't wait for that first mock draft, Scotty. I can't wait.
Next Thursday.
Next Thursday.
PewterReport.com.
All right. I'll write it down. I can hardly wait. Scotty, I'll talk to you soon, buddy. Thanks.
Thanks, TKras. We'll see you.
You got it. That's Scott Reynolds, PewterReport.com. Great stuff there. And I did see the story, and Scotty also has it at PewterReport.com. So the Dolphins are playing in Madrid. They're playing a game in Madrid, and it's a home game. Now the Buccaneers have to play a game at Miami, and there's a chance that maybe it's the Buccaneers that goes over there. We'll see. 888-546-4620. Ronnie Lane coming up at 5 o'clock. Marc Topkin at 5:05. When we come back, injury news out of the NFL divisional playoff weekend. Things you need to know. That is next.
You're locked in to The Drive with TKras.
It is The Drive presented by our guys over at Moss Nissan, where their goal is to never lose your business over price. Chris Mathis is also alongside. He has experienced the Moss effect. He's a newbie. I've been a Moss Nissan customer for quite a while. I bought my last 2 vehicles there. They are awesome. And if you're thinking about buying a new or pre-owned vehicle, you should go there. Why? because their customer service and satisfaction is awesome. They've got a wide selection. And post-holidays, you got holiday hangovers, you got credit card debt that's got you down. No problem. They can cure it, Chris.
No doubt about it. They're going to cure my need for an oil change here in the coming weeks. So I'll be visiting Moss Nissan, but they have no money down right now, plus no payments due until the spring.
That is awesome. You know what else is awesome? Moss Care. I've got it on my current vehicle, and it's a beautiful thing. It comes with every purchase, unlimited oil changes and tire rotations for as long as you own the vehicle.
And so much more, Tom. Really, you're going to get all this while selecting from the largest Nissan inventory in Tampa Bay.
You got that right. So check them out. 3 locations, Tampa, Newport Richie, and up in Brooksville, or online at mossnissan.com. That's mossnissan.com. Tell them we...
Because you're on the drive with TKras. Afternoons on 95.3 WDAE and AM 620.
My best guess, wow, it is going to be an owner that we do not know. I don't think it's anybody local that, the names that you hear around town here. I think it's going to be somebody from elsewhere. And I do think once you get a new owner in, a new stadium deal comes together in Tampa Bay.
That's John Romano, columnist, Tampa Bay Times, TampaBay.com, per our conversation earlier the week here on The Drive about the future of the Rays and their ownership. And now this article from Ken Rosenthal at The Athletic, quoting a crossroads, perhaps. Welcome back. Good evening, Tampa Bay. 5:08 on your ride home. The Drive with yours truly, presented by Moss Nissan. Chris Mathis on the other side. More of your calls and texts coming up. It is time now for your 5 o'clock happy hour here on the program.
Drinks around the house.
They're on the house.
Yeah.
Because Ronnie Lane is in the building. What's going on, playa?
Man, I'm just here loving it. It's a Friday. Warmed up a little bit today. I'm down. I'm not down with these clouds and cool weather in Florida. Come on. This is why we're here, man. We're not here for this stuff. This is like Midwest weather.
Listen, people in a few weeks don't complain about the cold weather because in a few weeks when the Rays start playing at Steinbrenner Field,
those 900 degrees,
those hot, sweaty nights, in late June, and Marc Topkin's going to be there sweating his arse off trying to make deadline.
Whoa. Late June? I'm talking mid-May. It's going to be hot, bro.
Well, mid-May, late June into July, the dog days of August. Marc Topkin is going to be sweating.
We all will be sweating.
He's trying to make deadline. He's like, I can't believe this game's going to extra innings. What the hell is this team doing to me? I got to change my story again.
So you referenced the Ken Rosenthal article in The Athletic, and I've been telling friends of mine to check it out because people are like, what was a race for sale? Kevin Cash.
He's not sure at this point, but I don't know. Maybe the Rays executives, if they're listening to anything that's being said about them, I mean, they're going to know that, change is probably coming.
I can hear you.
Well, I'm glad, Eric, you can hear us. But let's go to the Central Florida Behavioral Health Network DA hotline. Learn more at cfbhn.org. He's standing by, and nobody's more excited than Marc Topkin, Rays Insider, TampaBay.com, for all of those hot, sweaty summer nights at Steinbrenner Field. Topper, welcome to the happy hour, sir.
Man, you guys have already had way too many, I can tell. and you're having so much fun. I didn't know if you were even going to bring me in or not. I mean, we're like halfway through the time till Mathis calls time out, and then your guys are still going on.
Wow.
And then plus, I talk to John Romano every frickin' day. I talk to John Romano more than I talk to my wife, and I got to listen to him talk when you play his soundbite? I mean, come on.
Yeah, that's kind of rude making the man wait.
Well, look, I mean, we're trying to set the table for the conversation that we're going to have with Marc. Marc, are you very much looking forward to those hot, sweaty summer days and nights at Steinbrenner Field where you got to write your article?
Is this a romance novel? You said hot and sweaty like 5 times.
Well, I'm just reminding you.
People call in for romance advice?
I'm reminding you of what you're up against.
Laura? Is that it, Laura? Is that the show?
No.
He's making me a little uncomfortable if he keeps saying that.
Yeah, I mean, I was going to compliment you for classing the place up by bringing Ronnie back, but now I'm starting to wonder.
Well, I've been wondering about you for a long time. So you had the story at TampaBay.com before we get to the Rosenthal article about the start times, and the Rays are going to start a lot of games at 7:05, in the first couple of months, and then it's going to go to 7:35. So tell us the thinking behind all that.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's a smart move. Not that you care what I think, I know, but the idea is, it'll obviously be a little cooler. The sun's almost down by 7:30, but also the idea, and they did put a lot of work into this, studying a lot of the rain patterns. Is, look, most of the time we get that rain like late afternoon, early evening. So if they can wait till 7:30, and look, there's some days they'll probably have to wait a little past 7:30, but the idea is be able to play through, not start and stop. That's the worst thing for them on the field, obviously, if you lose your starting pitcher because you have a long rain delay. It disrupts the flow. It doesn't make for a good fan experience. I mean, once the game starts, you want to be able to play it through. So I get the point. I get the logic. There's a bunch of 7:30 starts. They obviously, as we also know, and then to their credit and MLB's credit, switched the schedule a little bit, so they only play, I think it's 8 home games in the month of July and 9 home games in the month of August. So limit the exposure, do what you can to dodge the weather. The traffic's a little bit of a factor, too. They looked at that. Obviously Dale Mabry gets a little crowded at that time of day, so push that back a little. They've got to, they're going to use the parking lots at Ray J, the north lot, so there's a couple of conflicts there. There's Metallica show. I'm sure you'll be in the front row for that. TKras. So they got to play they're going to play a 1:10 game on a Friday because Metallica's playing that night. But look, we knew there were going to be some adjustments, some accommodations. But I do think the general idea of playing later and then playing some of the day games at noon rather than at 1:10 or 1:40, kind of pinch it on the other end, try to get done before the rain, also makes a little bit of sense.
When I glanced at the schedule, Mark, I didn't see a whole lot of night games on the weekends. So the weekend home games are remaining daytime affairs. Those could get quite hot, man.
Yeah, the Saturday's kind of all over the place. Some of that they're kind of locked in because of the national TV contract where Fox has those Saturday night games. There's some Saturday day games, and then Sunday, like I said, they're going to move those up to 12:10. But yeah, it's still going to be a little. What was Joe Madden's phrase? Toasty.
Mm-hmm. Very toasty indeed. Marc Topkin is with us, Rays Insider here on The Drive. Ronnie Lane is with us as well on the Happy Hour on a Friday. So I'm sure, Mark, you've had a chance to read over Ken Rosenthal's article on The Athletic. We attempted to reach out to Ken Rosenthal. He said he doesn't do any outside radio interviews. That's what he told Mathis.
Oh, wow. But
I see him on Foul Territory and some of these other, TV shows or whatever. But that's another story for another day. That is a
hey,
Neil.
You sound jilted, buddy. You sound jilted.
A little bit, a little bit. I want to talk to him about, the basis for this article. Now, a lot of what was written by Ken Rosenthal were things we already knew, Mark, about obviously the discord with the Pinellas County officials. I mean, the bonds have been improved. Now, the Rays are balking because they feel like the overruns are going to cost them more money than they're willing to spend. So, from what you were able to gather, where do you think we're at right now?
Yeah, I mean, and look, Ken does an incredibly great job. I do think that article probably was more informative for people in other markets. I do think most of what he covered in there explained the situation we are all very familiar with here, obviously. And if you live somewhere else and you want to know what's going on, it's a really going to help you get caught up on all that. I'd like to think those people are also clicking on TampaBay.com and reading Colleen Wright's articles along the way. But in case they didn't, Ken will catch them up. But, I mean, obviously the part that gets you in Ken's article was the opening, and the point being that if Sternberg, in his opinion, in Ken Rosenthal's opinion, if Stu Sternberg and the Rays don't work out the new stadium deal, he should consider selling the team. I don't think that's a novel concept either. I think that's something that, you hear from various people around town, not necessarily anyone of authority or in charge or any decision makers, but it's not a outlandish conclusion. I'm not sure where I feel on that, or what I think, and that doesn't really matter. But I do think that's not an outlandish conclusion to think that if Steve Sternberg, who has tried so long to get a stadium deal, you can discuss the merits of that and which ones were better or worse amongst yourselves. But if he tried for a long time to get a stadium deal, can't get it, if the commissioner of baseball wants the team to stay here, which he seems to be saying repeatedly, right? I mean, he said it a number of times. He said it again in Ken Rosenthal's article. He said it in some of my articles. He said it at the World Series. He said he said it a number of times. He wants the team to stay here. We know he came over from his winter home in the other side of Florida and visited with both county and city people, and that was the message they told us he gave them. So if he doesn't want the team to move, and if the current owner can't figure out or work out a stadium deal, that would seem to be a very likely possibility, right? That they knew they would sell the team and a new owner would try to work that out. Or you go to some massive court battle. I mean, this isn't Indianapolis Colts. You can't just pack up and move in the middle of the night. You have to be approved by 2/3 of the other owners. So you can't just go. So that's why I think that would be the sale would be considered more of a possibility at that point. And look, the Twins are on the market now, and there's some reports today of the guy who owns the Phoenix Suns is interested in them. I mean, sports teams are very expensive right now. I don't think there's a lot of people who can buy sports teams, certainly as many as they used to when the sale price was maybe a third of what it is now. When it's over $1 billion, you've got a pretty small group of buyers, right?
Well, I thought you and John Romano, Rick Stroud were going to pull all of your money in and try and take over the Rays.
Yeah, that was probably what we were going to do, and then we realized that we could pick up a few bucks being on your show. We don't get that anymore. That was the problem. You stopped paying us to be on.
So, Mark...
They've stopped paying me too, Mark, if that makes it feel any better.
Mark, when you guys are reading your tea leaves there about how this is going to play out, I guess March 31st is the next deadline we're all looking forward to see if the Rays pony up the money or come up with some agreement that satisfies the county commissioners so they'll go ahead and release those bonds. I think it's, $312.5 million or something like that in bonds. So if that does not materialize, what are your tea leaves telling you? What are you hearing? Who are these possible owners or prospective owners that could swoop in and buy the team?
I mean, I don't think Ken Rosenthal said there were people. I think he said that you would expect people to come in and do that. I don't think he identified or said there definitively were these people. Who's going to buy the team? Is it going to be a local group? I mean, that rumor's been going around for years. Some local people might be interested. Is it going to be an out-of-town group? There was, some story in the New York Post a few months ago that the Rays said wasn't true, that they had been talking to some out-of-town groups. So who would it be? I have no idea, Ronnie. I do think that it would be an interesting process, and the price, and I don't even know this, and maybe Kras wouldn't know this, but maybe some smart people out there could say whether it's better if you're a new owner, you'd want to buy the team and you'd want the stadium deal to be done, or you'd rather not have a stadium deal and try to negotiate your own. I know Romano's point being sometimes a second owner and a new voice has better opportunities to negotiate something, but. I think what basically is going to happen is, and this will be a nice cloud over the last week of spring training leading up to opening day and right after opening day, that the March 31st, that's basically an expiration date where the city and the county have done their part. Now the Rays have certain obligations they have to meet, which includes, presenting their part, showing that they have their part of the money, and then they all agree to go forward. So if everyone doesn't do their part by March 31st, the deal just blows up on its own. And the city and county essentially have done their part. So the onus will be on the Rays to either do their part by March 31st or let this thing go unless, they all agree to negotiate some kind of extension or something, which would probably only be the product of some progress to getting there. And then, against that backdrop, the St. Pete City Council still has to vote on spending the money to fix the trop, as the Rays, since we last talked, went from saying they didn't want it fixed to Matt Silverman's December 30th letter saying now they do want it fixed and it needs to be ready by opening day 2026. So St. Pete City Council still has to approve that money. There's a possibility that vote could be March 27th, so you could really have a nice setup. Stadium vote, opening day, stadium deadline, all happening in about the same 4-day window there.
Well, all I know
play
is
ball.
Let's play ball. Let's pay more money too, because the longer you wait, the more expensive it's going to get for everything involved in life. So, Marc Topkin is with us. So, pitchers and catchers report, Mark, in a few weeks. Is a lot of Rays fans want to know. We're talking about the on the field team. Is this all the Rays are going to be doing this offseason in terms of maybe trying to improve this offense? I know you wrote about it at TampaBay.com. Is this all we got?
I mean, you don't think adding Danny Jansen was enough? Is that what I'm just asking you? I'm just saying that I'm kind of picking up that vibe a little bit.
Well, listen, I don't know if he's Mike Piazza 2.0, but I think, you need another bat or two. What about Eric Neander?
I don't think we've addressed the offense since we last talked.
They definitely haven't. But you wrote about it, Mark, at TampaBay.com that, the Rays are relying on the guys that they already have maybe to take the next step, huh?
It's definitely, yeah. I mean, definitely, I was going to say kind of leaning in that direction or kind of framed that way. is they're looking at some of the guys they had last year that had down years, specifically Josh Lowe and then Morrell from when they got him. Didn't look like the guy that they thought they were getting, a 30-homer guy the year before. They're banking on some of the younger guys getting a little more opportunity. DeLuca's going to get a chance to play every day. Aranda's going to get a chance to play pretty much every day. Palacios is going to get to play more.
Going to be able to keep Brandon Lau healthy?
I was going to say, then you've got the veteran guys. You've got to keep Brandon Lau and Yandy Diaz and Danny Jansen healthy. And then, the little bit of a wild card in this, which is a perfect setup, that's what I'm writing about for this Sunday's Tampa Bay Times, is Junior Caminero. He is tearing it up in the winter leagues right now, impressing people with, what he's doing, how he's doing it, how he looks, body shape, how he's carrying himself. I mean, just really looks like a guy who could be a superstar kind of impact player. And a lot of this will kind of depend on him, too. So, hope is never a good strategy, right? That's a pretty common saying. But the Rays are going to have to hope that, of these 7 or 8 guys that we just talked about, that, 4 or 5 of them end up stepping up a little bit. I mean, Eloy Jimenez is a little bit of a wild card, too, signed a minor league contract. They say, what they've heard is that he is in really good shape. He's, trying to salvage his career after just a brutal year last year. Got traded from the White Sox to the Orioles. I think he didn't even make the playoff roster, if I remember right. So, that's a guy that if he were, again, if they can, they're going to hope he can get back to his form of a couple of years ago when he was a 20-plus homer guy. He could factor in. Not real good with the glove, though, so be a little tricky to get everybody at bats in there with Aranda, Yandy, and him kind of between first base, DH, and then Jimenez could go out in the outfield a little bit, but that's kind of where they are. I mean, this is going to be a team that is relying on pitching. They've done that before. We've seen that formula work before. They've got 6 starting pitchers they feel are all, elite level or close to it. They feel like they've got this, pack of arms in the bullpen that can just blow people away, and that's kind of what they're banking on. The funny part is one of the things that they're saying about going to Steinbrenner Field is, it'll be a better offensive environment than the Trop was. It's got also smaller dimensions. It's Yankee Stadium dimensions. The lefty hitters, Aranda, Josh Lowe, Brandon Lau should love hitting the ball out of the ballpark there. But obviously that works both ways. So if you're building the team on pitching, but if you're going to a more offensive-oriented environment, you probably can't quite bank on it as much. So it's going to be a lot of things to look at what did you call them? Hot, sweaty nights?
Hot, sweaty nights.
Hot, sweaty nights, yeah.
Yeah, when you're up there in the Steinbrenner Field presser and, the Rays tied the game at 3, you're going into extra innings, and you have to rewrite your article and your story.
After the third rain delay of the night.
You and Neil Solondz getting together like, when the hell is this going to end? Then you got Andy Freed in the booth, and he's saying things like, "Get me out of here." Yeah, you're going to hear a lot of that. I think those summer nights. Mark, before I let you go, may I add another name to the mix? I know he's still out there. He's a free agent. He's from Tampa. I don't know if the Mets want him anymore, but Tampa's own Pete Alonso is still kind of meandering out there, Mark. He's looking for a job. He's from Tampa. First base, you can play him at first. You can DH him a little. I don't know what his price tag is. I know the Rays initially weren't keen on the idea, but that price tag of his is dropping faster than a lot of other things around here, too.
I was really waiting for you to complete that analogy and just totally embarrass yourself. And first of all, I'm surprised you had time to think of that because I assumed you, being a ardent Mets fan as you are, were negotiating for Pete with the Mets directly, and you didn't even have time to do your show today. So I'm impressed you had time to get that out there. Look, this is like, I hate to say it this way because I like hometown stories too, but the fact that he's from Tampa, that's not why they're going to sign him or not sign him. I mean, it's a nice story when a local kid plays. It was fun when Brett Phillips played here. There have been a couple other guys. Doug Wechter, the whole Wechterville thing was a great thing back in the old days. But realistically, that's not a factor. So now you got a guy who's a $20+ million a year player on a team that's total payroll is in the 60s right now somewhere. I don't think he's going to take a one-year deal. They're not going to want to make a commitment. Their 2 best hitting prospects are first baseman Xavier, if you look at Xavier Isaac and Trey Morgan. I mean, there's just not a lot of reason that's going to fit. So I don't want to burst your bubble, but I wouldn't spend a ton of time on that one right now.
Gotcha. Marc Topkin. Those hot, sweaty nights are coming, buddy. Just get ready.
Ronnie, don't sit too close to him. This hot, sweaty thing is he's going a little overboard with this.
I got a Richard Marx tune I'll play for him called Warm Summer Nights or something. I don't know.
There you go.
Endless Summer Nights. Yeah, there you go. That's the name of it.
Before you know it, Don Henley, the Boys of Summer, is going to be playing loud and proud on the radio. Marc Topkin, you can read him at TampaBay.com. Marc, we appreciate it.
Is there really a song called "Endless Summer Nights"?
There is. Richard Marx, M-A-R-X.
That might be the theme of this season if you think about it.
Yeah, think about it, man. It's a beautiful song, by the way. I think it was written by the late great Luther Vandross.
Ronnie would know.
All right, I'll check it out.
If anyone would know, Ronnie would know. Marc, we'll talk to you later, buddy.
All right, guys. Good talking to you, Ronnie.
You got it, man.
Are you still spinning records, cowboy hat?
I'll look that up because if you don't get that right, someone will check you on it. So I'll look it up right now.
The correction police is alive and well on the text platform. You freaking people.
Endless Summer Nights, though, it's a beautiful song, man. It really is.
Endless Summer Nights over at Steinbrenner Field. Boy, oh boy. We're all going to be sweating buckets. Those hot August nights out there at the Trop.
Yep.
Boy, oh boy. Not at the Trop, at Steinbrenner Field.
Steinbrenner Field, yeah.
Boy, that's going to be something else.
Those Saturday and Sunday games.
Oof. You're really going to want to love. You're going to have to love baseball more than you've ever loved anything else if you're going to spend time outdoors in the dead of summer, Saturday and Sunday at Steinbrenner Field. But I think quite a few people are going to do it. I do. All right, when we come back, it's a 5 o'clock happy hour. Ronnie is here. I'm here. Mathis is here. And yes, you're there as well with your disparaging, disrespectful remarks. You've been making them all week. We're going to give it back to you, too. The Drive, the mailbag edition, coming up next.
You're tuned in to The Drive with TKras.
It is The Drive on this Friday, presented by our guys, Brad Meredith and the boys over at Moss Nissan, where their goal is to never lose your business over price. TKras here, Chris Mathis here as well for our guys over at Moss Nissan. And if you're looking for a new or pre-owned vehicle in the new year, might we suggest Moss Nissan if the holiday hangovers have you down or credit card debt are keeping you down? They've got the cure at Moss Nissan, right, Chris?
They sure do, Tampa Bay. No money down, plus no payments due until the spring.
It's a beautiful thing. I bought my last two vehicles over at Moss Nissan, and with every purchase, you'll get Moss Care. Unlimited tire rotations and oil changes for as long as you own the vehicle.
You'll get all of that and so much more, including being able to select from the largest Nissan inventory in Tampa Bay.
Right you are, Mr. Mathis. And they've got a wide selection. You can check it out at their 3 locations, Tampa, Newport Richie, or up in Brooksville, or online at mossnissan.com. That's
With the Easy Rewards program at Staples.
Shift into high gear for the Drive with TKras, courtesy of Moss Nissan, only on WDAE. You've texted, tweeted, and slid into the DMs. Now it's time to showcase your best insults, opinions, and utter and ridiculous nonsense from the week that was. Some call it therapy. We call it time for payback. This is the mailbag on the Drive with TKras.
You freaking people. A lot of you, you shouldn't even be allowed back into society. It is the Drive mailbag presented by Bartow Ford. They're different and they prove it. You guys are different and you're proving it for all the wrong reasons.
You're
out, way out.
As long as they don't get like that stupid Philly fan that got himself fired.
Oh, that was just absolutely disgraceful.
This is one of the most despicable displays of conduct in the history of the World Wrestling Federation.
And it started on Monday, but, that's par for the course for Eagles fans. So Monday, Bucs lose. Ronnie, I was on the overtime show till 2 a.m. Obviously, you did your post game in the wee hours of the morning. So not everybody was in a great mood on Monday.
Some had some adult beverages when they called both of our shows. I can guarantee you that, man.
I'm telling you, we had people that were half in the bag.
Yeah, all the way in the bag.
All the way in the bag. Some people like gummies. Some people on drugs. You on drugs, Mr. Gambini? Oh, my gosh. Look at some of these people that texted in on Monday. This guy to the 941. I got home 2:30 a.m., had to wake up at 5:45 and take the kids to school. The wife twisted her ankle at the game, and she toughed it out and went to the ER after. Our guy Steve texted in. He said, I did see more near fights last night during and after the game than all the other 10 years of going to Bucs games combined. A lot of tough guys went to the game, I guess.
Wow, okay.
Choke them. Commanders fans? Really?
They've been in hibernation, I guess, for a long time. It had been 20 years since they'd won a playoff game.
Yeah, it's been a long time, definitely. Speaking of hibernation, Steve also texting TKras, did you tell Levante that you were going to guarantee him he was going to go back home to Miami? I actually told him that this guy Steve who texts the show is the mayor of Loserville, and that's where he's going, You freaking people.
You and Levante, man. You never.
I was there Monday. So I went there when they were cleaning out their lockers, and I had a little, conversation with him.
Yeah, you can say that.
I did say that, Levante. Best of luck to you. And look, he just said, my mind and my body have to be in agreement. I got the sense from talking to him that I think he's going to be back, barring something unforeseen. Now, he's going to be 35 years old.
Hell, he had 120 tackles. That was the next closest guy to him was 40 tackles behind him, right, on the team?
It was, and it'll be interesting to see what they do. I think they have to draft a guy.
Yeah, I agree.
On Tuesday, Ronnie, put that coffee down. I don't know why somebody was texting that in. And Chris Mathis.
Yes, sir.
Did I mention somebody at the 813? I want you to take it all off. The line that got TKras fired from WDAE. What was that a reference to? This has been such a long week. What was I talking about?
You were talking about my mustache, and I finally...
That's right.
I trimmed it, but you're like, it's not good. I want you to take it all off. And then it kind of got silent for a second, and I said, we're talking about the mustache, guys. Settle down.
I don't know, man. You need to do something there.
Look what they're doing to this man.
This is a nice text out of our guy, Coach Ward. Great show today, fellas. Chris Mathis, I can hear your growth on the radio the past couple of years.
Nice.
Wow, I have gotten taller. Thank you, Coach.
I'm nobody important, but I'm a faithful daily listener, and I can feel your confidence improve daily. Enjoy the Saturday show as well. That's Coach Ward. Last couple of years, 2 years ago, you were still in high school. What is he talking about?
Man. No.
Come on.
Hey, it's almost been 3 years. February.
No. You insulted him a little
February
bit.
22nd is 3 years.
What?
Yeah, since I moved here.
Shameless plug for your show tomorrow. You and Casey, what time?
Yeah, we're on 11 a.m. to 1 p.m. tomorrow on DAE.
All right.
Beautiful.
Catch Chris and Casey tomorrow. We got a bunch of local shows coming up tomorrow. What's on tonight? We're going to get into that in about 10 minutes. On Wednesday, we have Barrett Salih here. What the hell has been with What is Ben talking about from Clearwater? The YouTube stream is up and it's glorious. It's like having lunch with TKras without him asking how I got in his house.
Whoa. What does that mean?
Listen, I have security measures in place to handle people like you, by the way.
Say that again.
Yes, Jason Light. Look at this guy, the 651. You freaking radio people. So I was talking about the soup, Ronnie, at Publix.
Yes.
Which is fantastic. So this guy said, you freaking radio people. My wife sent me to Publix to get a few things, and I came home with a tub of that lasagna soup that you were talking about.
A tub? That's a lot.
It's best to ask for forgiveness than permission. Ain't that the truth?
But he didn't tell us if it was good or not. We know it's good.
Oh, it's fantastic.
Yeah.
The lasagna soup with the turkey sausage, it's fantastic. I'm kind of pissed off, though.
What happened?
At the peeps at Publix, okay?
Uh-oh.
So I made mention that their chicken pot pie soup is incredible. And they have, like, the calendar when you go get your soup, and it tells you which days have which soup. So I went to my Publix yesterday because it said chicken pot pie soup Thursday. I went in there and they didn't have it. And I was upset.
Major party foul.
Major. And then they scratched it out and they put Monday instead because it's like a limited time deal. So I said to them, I go, I'll be here on Monday. If the chicken pot pie soup isn't here, we're going to have a problem. Some furniture is going to be moving. I'm going to rip some ass. What did Coach Gold just say?
Going to go rip somebody's ass.
That's right, Coach. So you better have it on Monday.
Sounds like a supply chain thing.
Out of the 713, Tom, I think you might want to let your roommate, Braden Point, know that he gets to the team meetings on time. That's Brandon Holiday. And somebody else here suggested, Ronnie, that you were with Blackjack Braden Point as to why he missed that meeting.
We had a very important meeting of our own.
Where? At
I'm just kidding.
2001?
No,
but he was up in Boston.
Is that place still open? Yeah, he was in Boston. But, hey, that's the second time he's done that in his career.
Yeah, listen, I have no control over him. He's out of my jurisdiction. Yesterday, isn't it every hour, happy hour for Ronnie? Get him his cue cards out of the 813. I'm sure you're surprised to see that.
Of course.
Not. Chris Mathis, you seem to have a couple. Oh, here's another guy to the 352 when he heard you were going to be on. Ronnie had to join the show on Fridays because he wasn't meeting his free ticket quota out of work. What a jerk. That's a jerk thing. Jerk store. Jerk store.
Quota.
You. Ouch.
I wish I had one of those free ticket quotas.
Yeah, me too. Chris Mathis.
Yes, sir.
You ran into a few comments.
Yeah, I did. A couple of them based on Instagram, what I found on Instagram alone. Earlier this week when talking about the Buccaneers, you said, and I quote, it was an absolutely wasted year for Antoine Winfield Jr. And you were obviously alluding to the injuries, too.
Is that not a factual statement?
Very factual. And Matt says he was injured all season. What was he supposed to do? When he played, he wasn't very good. That's the thing.
But that's what his statement was about, the fact that it was a wasted season.
Yeah.
Are you professional or not?
And
it's not a slam on Antoine Winfield.
No, and I'm sure he's just as disappointed as we all are.
Another one here regarding the Buccaneers and their offensive tackles. You said, and I quote, the Bucs have one of the best tackle tandems in the entire league.
Yes.
It might even be the best.
Yes.
And
true story.
This one guy, 7485 _J-Rod, tells you a lot about him.
Is that his prison number? Or
it might be.
Well, come on.
It might be. He says, and I quote, try again.
Try again?
As if you're wrong there.
All right.
Why don't you try? When is your show on? All right.
I don't know if it has any followers.
I mean, when you get on a parole, let me know. You clown. Oh, Chris Mathis, I just did.
Oh, no.
I took great, and I try to hit the You're going to have to
find it again?
Yeah, sorry.
All right. I'm cutting off the mic.
Sorry about that,
Not yours. We'll keep yours on. Mine's off.
7474, whatever. Is that his inmate number?
I don't want to be associated with that guy. He's a loser.
He sure is. All right, that is it for The Drive, the mailbag edition presented by Bartow Ford. They're different, and they prove it.
Same old with the old mailbag, man.
Nothing has changed, my friend. Nothing.
Good, though.
The more things change, the more they stay the same, as they say.
Brief mention on the Lightning there. You were talking about your boy not playing in that Boston game. They got destroyed in that game, too, 6-2 or something like that.
It was bad. Now, last night they came back, and Braden Point did score like we had predicted, Chris Mathis.
Oh, yeah.
He scored, and I like what they did with the power play where Cooch is on both units.
Yes. Cooch can play anywhere, man.
It's awesome.
Good for Kucherov!
It is good for Kucherov. It's good for the Lightning. Lightning won that game in the shootout thanks to Jake Gensel, who's been nothing short of remarkable for the Bolts. Remarkable. Speaking of hot, sweaty nights, I mean, don't you think that Julien Brisebois is somewhat relieved about Jake Gensel and what he's doing as opposed to, what's happening right now with Steven Stamkos and the Nashville Predators at this point?
Yeah, I talked to one of my Nashville guys. I suppose he's coming out of it a little bit, but, man, he got off to a very slow start.
Very slow. But Jake Gensel has been great.
He's been outstanding. And he was last night. He's the reason they won.
And putting him on that line, obviously being on the same line with Point and Kucherov, I think you and I could go on that line.
I don't know about that.
And we could score 20 goals, maybe.
I'd pay for that. That'd be a good way to raise some funds.
First, we need to learn how to skate, and then maybe we can make something happen there. All right, when we come back, the happy hour continues. We're going to let you know what's on tonight and what's coming on this weekend. That is next here on The Drive.
You're locked in to The Drive with TKras.
It is The Drive. It is presented by our guys over at Moss Nissan, and we told you about them in the last hour. But on your ride home on this Friday, just be careful out there. I saw it again today, man. Just some reckless drivers, careless drivers, and if you or someone you love happens to be the victim of an injury accident or product liability or medical malpractice, Social Security disability, they specialize in that too. Call on my guys over at Catania & Catania, the personal injury law firm that's been doing their thing the last 3 decades here in Tampa Bay. They work on a contingency. What does that mean? That means there's no cost to you unless they win. But they're experienced. They've won a lot of cases, and they will go the extra mile for you. Almost $1 billion with a B has been recovered by my guys for injury victims just like you. And when I had my mishap, I called Catania & Catania. They've got my back. They'll have your back as well. So give them a call. Tell them I sent you. A free evaluation of your case can be had at 813-222-8545. That's 813-222-8545. Or hit them up online, CataniaandCatania.com. They
ReeseWindows.com.
The Drive is live with TKras on 95.3 WDAE and AM 620. What's on tonight with The Drive with TKras?
Yes, sir. And here he is, our guy, executive producer, Chris Mathis.
All right, everyone. If you're just joining us, you've missed quite a bit. Ronnie Lane's still in the studio for another handful of minutes as he joins us 5 to 6 o'clock every Friday. You can download the free iHeartRadio app. Search up The Drive. Click follow on there as well. Make sure to lock in and preset The Drive, the show, as well as our on-demand podcasting, too. You're not going to want to miss out on that. Also, you all know that we have some big playoff games taking part this weekend. No Lightning game tonight, however. Couple of hoops game if you want to look that way. You've got Providence against Villanova. Nobody cares about that. We will keep it live and local tomorrow, beginning at 9 a.m. with Nick Wise, 9 to 11, followed by Chris and Casey, myself and Casey Warner. Rock Riley, 1 to 2 p.m. Aaron Jacobson, 2 to 3 p.m., all right here on WDAE.
What is going on here on Saturdays?
Well, are you professional or not?
What's happening there?
Aaron lost a bet, and the bet was, I forgot what he would win if he would have got the bet right. It was about the Army-Navy game, but since he lost, he had to do one full month of Saturday shows.
That's awesome.
Wow.
Made a bet, he'll be previewing college basketball tomorrow.
Maybe. I have no idea what he's going to be doing.
I don't know.
I have no idea. But anyway, live and local, 9 until 3 p.m. tomorrow.
All righty. There you have it. That's a lot of local radio on a Saturday here on WDAE.
I love it, man.
It is great. It is great. So we got the NFL divisional playoff games coming up this weekend. You and I were just talking. You better believe it. Toughness personified, Ronnie, from a guy that we know. Sort of. Rams tight end Tyler Higbee, the pride of Eastlake. So he had this devastating knee injury, and he just came back a few weeks ago. And then last week, he hurts his chest in the victory over the Vikings, and after the game, he was rushed to the hospital, spitting up blood. He's got no injury designation. He's good to go for this weekend's game against the Eagles.
That's awesome.
That's a tough guy right there.
That's awesome. We've turned back a couple from time to time with his pops, and he's very proud of him. So
his pops is good people.
I think the Rams are that emotional favorite because of what's going on in L.A. I think we can all agree on that. They certainly played that way in their first game.
They are the sentimental choice, and I made that point actually in the first hour of the program. And I think Sean McVay is going to try and use that as a rallying tool, as a motivational tactic against the big, bad Eagles. There's
and their
nothing.
Fan base.
And their fan base. And look, I don't care for their fan base at all. And, we talked about the fan and, the disgraceful video that emerged last week.
Yeah, he got what he deserved.
100%. Except for, punch in the nose. He probably deserved that, too.
Choke him now.
Choke him. Choke him.
Choke him.
And it's not only that, Ronnie. It's just how they go about their business. It's how they conduct themselves, like on the sidelines. A.J. Brown's reading books. I mean,
what's up with that?
I've never seen that before. We had Ross Tucker on the show. I'm like, have you ever seen anything like that? Because he called the game. Yeah. For Westwood One, he's like, I've never seen anything like that before in my life.
Wait, what are you guys talking about? I'm just reading a book in here.
Don't quit, pivot.
That's the Mike
our
Neighbors
book.
Mike.
Neighbors.
Are you guys talking about this book? I wasn't listening. I was just reading a book.
Yeah, you're not supposed to be reading. You're supposed to be engaged with what we're doing here. Like A.J. Brown should have been engaged, Ronnie, in, I don't know, his job instead of reading on the sidelines.
Yeah, I've never seen it either. I'm with Ross on that. I have never seen a player reading a book on the sidelines of a game. College, pro, high school, doesn't matter.
I hope the Eagles lose. I really do.
Too, man. Especially after that fan did what he did to that Green Bay fan.
I'm telling you.
Said what he said.
Just no respect for anybody.
I think the America's game would be Detroit and Buffalo in the Super Bowl, since Buffalo back in the 90s, 91 through 94, they went to the Super Bowl every year and lost every game. And Detroit's never even been in the Super Bowl. Can you imagine how crazy that would be in Nolans?
The last time they won anything of significance really was back in 1957, before the Super Bowl even came about, the Super Bowl era, an NFL championship. So it's been since the 50s since the Lions won anything of significance there. So I'm actually kind of rooting for them, too. I kind of like the Lions because of their long and distinguished drought that you just referenced to. And look, the Bills and their fans are crazy, and I can only envision, and I talked about this earlier, Ronnie, obviously your lovely wife is from Buffalo, that neck of the woods. I can only imagine what the pregame festivities are going to be like with the temperatures hovering around 10 degrees.
They don't care.
Wind chill in the single digits. Snow is in the forecast.
They don't care.
I know that. That's why mental health is a serious issue. They're going to be launching themselves off the top of their vans through tables that are lit on fire.
But that is the game. I mean, why couldn't that be the Super Bowl? The Ravens and the Bills. How entertaining would that be with your two MVP candidates going at it?
Well, and the rough part about that whole conversation is this. One of those fan bases will be crushed late Sunday night.
Buddy. I mean, just bummed out beyond belief. It's a pick'em game, too. What's the spread? 1?
I believe the Ravens are favored. We've got Pigskin Pick'em coming up in the next hour. And the over-under, believe it or not, was still at 51.5, which is crazy. I mean, I'm definitely hitting the under on that.
Yeah. And that weather?
Those frigid conditions, both teams want to run, keeping the score down.
I'm afraid for Buffalo with King Henry, man. To me, that's the difference right there.
Well, 100%.
Buffalo, a 1-point favorite. Or I should say Baltimore, 1-point favorite on the road.
That's what I thought.
And it's still 51.5.
Yikes.
The over-under.
That's going to be the game, obviously, on Sunday night.
The game, indeed. All right, man. This 1 hour, it goes by way too fast.
Way too fast, but you got your picks coming up next hour? What else you got?
Yeah, I'll be picking my nose, and we'll let you know what's happening there. As we'll take you up until 7 o'clock.
All right, it's always fun, man. Thanks for having me.
Thanks for being here.
You better be ready when you get home this afternoon. I got something for you. That's for you, Chris Mathis.
Oh, that's for you, definitely.
I don't know if I like that one. I don't know what you're talking about. Boom, bada, bing.
All
right, boys. Have a good one.
You got it,
Thanks,
man.
Ronnie.
Ronnie Lane, the legend that is. All right, when we come back, what's the next move for the Bucs heading into the offseason? And if Liam Cohen leaves, who might replace him as Bucs offensive coordinator? We got a couple of names for you to keep an eye on. We'll talk to Scott Reynolds, pewterreport.com, next.
You're locked in to The Drive with TKras.
Ladies and gentlemen, you might want to kick off the new year with a timeless diamond. You can impress her, meaning your better half, with that timeless diamond from the Gold and Diamond Source. And if you're ready to pop the big question, you can find the engagement ring of your dreams at the Gold and Diamond Source. That's what Chris Mathis did. He recently got engaged. He got his engagement ring over at the Gold and Diamond Source. And during the holidays, he popped the question to his now fiancée, Lily. And she was so impressed with the ring, she said, "Oh, my God, I can't believe you went to the Gold and Diamond Source. The answer is yes." Something like that. Make her January birthday or your 2nd and 6th wedding anniversaries unforgettable with up to 15% off garnet, which happens to be the January birthstone. And guys, while you're there, you can discover Emilique by Emily Johnson Weintraub, a sleek and modern jewelry line that makes everyday gifts extraordinary. And guys, you can also turn old, unused gold into cold, hard cash or a stunning new piece. With gold prices soaring, there's no better time to trade up than right now at the Gold and Diamond Source.
That's of my body. The first is my heart. Old Spice. Men have skin too. Old Spice Super Hydration Body Wash. 24/7 renewing moisture. With daily use.
Country to Palm Harbor and all around Tampa Bay, plus worldwide on iHeartRadio.
The gloves are off. I'm playing hardball. It's 4th and 15, and you're looking at a full court press.
You're tuned into the voice of the Tampa Bay sports fan.
You're going to like this guy. He's all right. He's a good fella. He's one of us. Buckle up. Because you're on the drive with TKras.
Afternoons on 95.3 WDAE and AM 620.
That's a lot. The first thing you do is review everything you've done, see what they're seeing, see what you see, see what you can change. Then you're always looking for fresh ideas, whether it's high school, college, pro, pee-wee ball. You're always looking for fresh ideas, whether it's pressures, whether it's runs, whether it's blocking schemes, whether it's coverages. You're always looking for fresh ideas going forward.
It's time for some more fresh ideas for Todd Bowles of the Buccaneers. One and done in the playoffs. So what's the next move as they embark on an offseason that could bring about some change? Good evening, Tampa Bay. Welcome back. 6:08 on your ride home. The Drive with yours truly, TKras, Tom Krasnicki, presented by Moss Nissan. Chris Mathis on the other side. 888-546-4620. That's the phone number. You can text in at 82945 on the Bartow Ford DAE text platform. We've got Pigskin Pick'em coming up at the bottom of the hour. We're going to pick all the games from this weekend's NFL divisional playoff action. 4 intriguing games. We could hardly wait. So NFL picks coming up in a matter of moments. But in terms of the Buccaneers, What kind of changes might we see? Is Liam Cohen going to leave for Jacksonville or some other job? Let's get the answers to all of these questions and a lot more. He's with us now in the Central Florida Behavioral Health Network, DA Hotline. Learn more at cfbhn.org. He's got a great Fab 5 article. You can read it right now at pewterreport.com. Our guy Scott Reynolds is with us on a Football Friday. Scotty, how goes it?
Good, TKras. How are you, man?
Doing great. So, give me your sense as to the Bucs losing last weekend. Obviously, a lot of Bucs fans thought that they were primed for a deep postseason run. Did you feel that way as well?
Can't really say that I did. I did believe that they would beat the Commanders, but I'm not sure that this was the team to go further than they did last year. So, as it turns out, it'll be the Commanders going to Detroit. I don't know that the Buccaneers would have beaten the Lions again in Detroit. Their defense just wasn't playing as well as they did earlier in the season. Anything can happen, right, on any given Sunday, but it just didn't feel like this was the Buccaneers' year. I predicted a 10-7 record. That's what they finished with, so I'm not surprised there. But I really believe next year, if Liam Cohen returns to run this offense and there are some improvements on the defensive side, I believe that the Tampa Bay Buccaneers will be a Super Bowl contender in 2025.
I'm with you on that. And in order for them to do that, a couple of things have to take place. Liam Cohen has to stay, and I'll ask you about him in a matter of moments. And they can use a couple of guys on the defensive side, Scotty, as we know, an edge rusher, obviously. Yeah. There's a screaming need for that. And just as important as an edge rusher, I think corner is a priority need because Jamel Dean has shown that you can't count on this guy. He's a good guy. He's a really great dresser and everything else, being out and about in the community. But, Scotty, the best ability is availability.
Yeah, and he's just not available. And listen, this is Carlton Davis 2.0. We saw what happened to Carlton last year in the offseason. He was traded away, and I don't know that Jamel Dean has a lot of trade value, to be honest. He has one interception in the past 2 years, so he's not going to be a guy that's going to pick up passes. That was part of Carlton Davis's problem. And like Carlton Davis, he can't stay healthy. So, that's a 1-2 punch that got Carlton on the way out of town last year. It's going to probably do the same thing with Jamel Dean. Again, another reason is he has a high cap value. So I really believe that this team will be looking for an impact cornerback. I would draft one for sure early in the premium rounds, but I'd also look at free agency to see if you can have a veteran come in here and really provide some stability at that position because I'm with you. I think they need an edge rusher. They certainly need inside linebackers. They also need a cornerback or two as well.
Scott Reynolds, PewterReport.com is with me here on The Drive. So, Levante David, you talking about inside linebackers. I was there in the locker room with you on Monday, and, he talked to everybody, and I had a couple of words with him afterwards. So, what he said was, my mind and my body both have to be in agreement, but he also told us that he loves the game. He can still impact the game. That leads me to believe, Scotty, that I think he's going to take some time off, but I think he'll be back next year. What say you?
Possibly, right there in that year-to-year mode that Ronnie Barber was in, signing a series of one-year deals at the end of his career in Tampa Bay. I don't know that Levante David has the heart to go anywhere else and play, so I think it's the Buccaneers or bust. Bust meaning, hopefully, a bust in Canton, Ohio, because I do believe he's had a Hall of Fame career. I don't know. He turns 35 pretty soon here at the end of the month, and he's still an effective player. He's not as good in coverage as he used to be, and I think playing down in and down out probably took a toll on his body. Just lost a little bit of a step in coverage. Still a very good tackler, very good blitzer, and certainly the leadership value is there too. Given his age, I wouldn't mind bringing him back at all. Maybe platooning him a little bit, right? I mean, bolstering that inside linebacker room. Deion Jones is back. We'll see what he has to bring to the table next year if he makes it out of camp and still on this roster. Servasio Dennis's shoulder is completely surgically repaired, so that's a good sign. He showed some interesting flashes at the beginning of the season. He might be that inside linebacker to replace KJ Britt, who I don't think will be back. He's a free agent. He's not starting caliber material at all. Probably just a special teamer. So they're going to have to get another linebacker or two, either in the draft and free agency. And I'm not opposed to bringing Levante David back, but if I do, I maybe want to rotate him with another player and another younger up-and-coming player to kind of preserve Levante throughout the entire season and not put 95 to 100% of the snaps on his 35-year-old body each game.
Shaq Barrett, really interesting free agent. The Bucs brought him back, played sparingly in 2 games. You talked about in your Fab 5 article at pewterreport.com. What do you think happens there?
I'm not sure. I didn't see enough to tell me if he still has the first step or not. Maybe you re-sign him to a cheap 1-year deal, bring him to camp without the guarantee he's going to be on the team. The last version of Shaq Barrett, the team didn't like so much that they released him, and then he retired. So I don't know. I think that this is a cheap 1-year deal loaded with incentives, and just to see if Shaq Barrett, 2 years removed from that torn Achilles, if he still has that first step, or if he's regained a first step without much mileage on his tires. So he's really a wild card. I would not count on him to make the team. If I did sign him, he would almost be a luxury signing and just some insurance in case something happens. But really what the Buccaneers need to do is find an impact alpha edge rusher. Yaya Diaby came on in every category except for the sacks. But there's something final about sacks, TKras. Like, you can get a pressure on a play, you can get right in the quarterback's face, get a pressure on him, and the PFF will count it as a pressure. But the quarterback can still throw a touchdown on that so-called pressure, right? Sacks have a finality to them, especially on third down. They lead to punts, right? They can also be sack fumbles, which lead to turnovers. So sacks are better than pressures, and he only had 4.5 sacks this year. So I think Yaya Diaby's a great starting caliber player, but I'd want him as my outside linebacker number 2 on the depth chart. This team needs to go ahead and get an alpha in free agency, a guy like they did back in 2018, trading for Jason Pierre-Paul, for example.
It was a great move by Jason Light. Got him for, I think, a third-round pick, and he came on, and he was incredible. Was also a great locker room guy and leading them to that Super Bowl. Scott Reynolds is with me. So yesterday, Liam Cohen interviewed up in Jacksonville, and to our knowledge, and maybe you can tell me, is this the only team that has reached out to him?
So far, that's the case. He has not heard from the Las Vegas Raiders. However, if John Spytek ends up getting that job as the general manager out there, then you might see the Raiders have some interest in Liam Cohen. I think Ben Johnson might be the front runner out there. Tom Brady has been a long-time admirer of what he's been able to do up there in Detroit. He's just a little bit of an older version of Liam Cohen and done it a little bit longer. But there's a lot to like about Liam Cohen. And the Jaguars, if they don't go with Liam Cohen, that'll be a blessing to the Buccaneers. Interesting that they interviewed yesterday Todd Monken, the Ravens offensive coordinator and the former Buccaneers receivers coach and play caller under Dirk Cutter. That is probably a good sign, because I think Todd Monken is much more well-equipped to become a head coach at this stage of his career than certainly Liam Cohen has as a first-year play caller. I mean, you look at what he did here in Tampa with the offense, then he went to Cleveland for a year. We actually worked with Baker Mayfield there with the Browns, then went to Georgia, won a couple of national titles with the Bulldogs. So even though he's an older coach at 58, very relatable to today's younger players. That's key. He's a leader of men. He's got some feistiness. Reminds me a lot of Bruce Arians, to be honest, right? Arians got his first head coaching gig at age 61 out there in Arizona, right? Monken, now 58, has yet to lead a team outside of Southern Miss back in college. But I think he's ready. And you look at what he's done, going from Stetson Bennett, TKras leading the Georgia Bulldogs to 2 national championships with Stetson Bennett, a walk-on.
Right.
And then 2 years at Baltimore, taking Lamar Jackson's game to new heights in that offense that Baltimore has. He is so good and such a creative play caller. If I'm a betting man, if I'm Jacksonville, I think I'd want to go with a more proven guy like Todd Monken to work with Trevor Lawrence in that offense and lead my franchise rather than Liam Cohen. That's no knock on Cohen at all. And that would actually be music to Buccaneers fans' ears if Cohen did this organization a favor, right? And getting to keep Liam Cohen, perhaps.
Now, if Liam Cohen leaves, a lot of Bucs fans are panicking, but I'm trying to talk them off the ledge, Scotty. He's not taking Baker Mayfield or Tristan Wirfs or Bucky Irving with him. I mean, the offense is loaded, okay? And there would not be a shortage of guys who would love to come here and orchestrate this offense because of the talent that's here, also being on the fast track to becoming head coach of the league. But in your Fab 5 article, you mentioned a very interesting name if the Buccaneers look externally for an OC in case Liam leaves, right?
Yeah, Jake Peetz is the guy to keep an eye on. Younger guy, 41, kind of in that Dave Canales, Liam Cohen, up-and-coming young offensive coordinator type mold. He was with the Rams organization, so he's from that Sean McVay coaching tree, just like Liam Cohen was. Matter of fact, when Cohen went back to Kentucky in 2023 to be the play caller and the offensive coordinator for the Wildcats, it was Jake Peetz who was elevated from an offensive quality control position to the pass game coordinator for Sean McVay out there. And then now he spent the past year as the pass game coordinator in Seattle. So he's got some exposure to a couple different offenses, a couple different coordinators. He had 1 year of play calling experience in the SEC, very similar to what Liam Cohen did. That was in 2021 on Ed Orgeron's staff with the LSU Tigers. So he's had some play calling experience in the SEC. That's a name to watch, an internal name. And also to Jake Peetz, he actually interviewed for the job last year too. So Jason Light, Todd Bowles have some familiarity with him. But the internal name, the guy inside the building, if they want to keep some continuity, that guy to keep an eye on is Josh Grizzard, who's very well thought of inside the walls of one Buccaneer place. He was Liam Cohen's pass game coordinator, and so he really helped out in the passing game, was kind of his right-hand man in that regard. Oh, and by the way, the Tampa Bay Buccaneers finished first in third down conversion on offense this year in the entire league, 51.1%. Guess who was responsible on Liam Cohen's staff for putting together the third down plays? Josh Grizzard.
There you go. That's a name to keep in mind. You can read the Fab 5 article. It's awesome at pewterreport.com. Scott Reynolds is all over it. He's covered this team for more than 30 years. Scotty, I appreciate it as always. Now that the season is over, let's get together. I've got plenty of Chattanooga. I got plenty of Chattanooga whiskey, my friend. I'll write it down. I can hardly wait. Scotty, I'll talk to you soon, buddy. Thanks.
Thanks, TKras. We'll see you.
Scott Reynolds, pewterreport.com. Great Fab 5 article out. And, yeah, they'll be all over it this offseason. The Senior Bowl, the Combine, the draft, the first mock draft is coming up next week. So that's what we're focusing on, unfortunately. We're not focused on what we should be focusing in on. I wish we were talking about a divisional playoff game this weekend.
Trying to stir shit up.
What? I'm not trying to do anything, Baker. I'm just saying. You guys should be playing. I'm pulling for you. You guys should be playing.
I'll say this. I'm happy we got a long weekend.
Well, look, it is a long weekend, but it's not the kind of weekend that Baker Mayfield wanted to have. Baker Mayfield wanted to be out there playing. Had the Buccaneers won that game, they'd be on their way to Philadelphia. Can you imagine?
I suck today.
No, look. Excuse me. I had a sneeze, so I cut my mic just for a second there, Chris Mathis.
I did notice that. Bless you, sir.
Thank you. He already has. And look, Baker's going to be one of those guys that will be watching the game this weekend like, that should be us. We should be there. It should be Bucs at Eagles with an opportunity to knock them off and send their fans home for the holidays or home for the rest of the offseason. Do you have the footage, Chris Mathis? Speaking of which, there was an exchange that took place on the field last week after the Commanders beat the Buccaneers. So Greg Gaines, the Bucs defensive lineman, went up to one of his former teammates, Commanders linebacker Bobby Wagner, and they exchanged pleasantries and, you know, they started cracking on each other, and it sounded something like this.
Good job, baby. Yes, sir. Appreciate you. Respect, bro. Respect, Greg Gaines. Come on, man, huh? So you look old. Yeah, all right. Y'all go home, though.
No. You insulted him a little bit.
So Greg Gaines said, "Oh, man, you look old," he said to Bobby Wagner. Bobby Wagner shot back and said, "Oh, yeah, you're going home, though. Not me. We're moving on, playa." And tomorrow night, the Commanders' season, the Commanders will be going home tomorrow night, I can tell you that.
You going to guarantee that?
Well, when we come back, Chris Mathis, NFL picks, we're going to pick all the divisional games over the weekend. Who's moving to Championship Sunday? We'll have that for you next year on The Drive.
WDAE traffic update. This report is sponsored by Audible.
Crash on northbound Florida Avenue before Waters, right near the Hillsborough River, blocking a couple lanes. Eastbound I-4, slow near 75, and southbound 275 from I-4 out to past Dale Mabry. Westbound I-4, just a bit slow, approaching downtown Tampa and 275. Southbound 275 in St. Pete, a bit slow, approaching that Skyway Toll Plaza. Get traffic info around the clock by searching News Radio WFLA on iHeartRadio. I'm Randy Myers.
Tap into your well-being with Audible audiobooks, podcasts, and originals. Expand your life with expert insight and motivation for better health, habits, relationships, finance, and more. Start listening free when you sign up for a 30-day trial at audible.com.
Listening on the free iHeartRadio app? Thanks to Farrah and Farrah, it's never been easier to send your opinions directly to your favorite show when you open the app. TKras, courtesy of Moss Nissan, live on WDAE.
All right, folks, welcome back. 6:31 on your ride home. The Drive with TKras, presented by Moss Nissan. You got Chris Mathis on the other side. It is time for Pigskin Pick'em. Yes, sir. NFL picks. NFL divisional playoff weekend is upon us. One of my favorite weekends of the sports calendar. And here we are for our NFL picks with Chris Mathis.
All right, tomorrow you've got the Kansas City Chiefs hosting the Houston Texans with a line of the Chiefs being a favorite of 8.5 at home, Tom. 8.5. The over-under is 41.5.
You know, the Chiefs have not played in quite some time, meaning their starters. They wrapped up their division on Christmas Day. So Patrick Mahomes has been given plenty of time to heal his ankle. Travis Kelce, Chris Jones, yada, yada, yada. They haven't played really in more than 3 weeks. So I expect them to come out and maybe be a little bit slow out of the gate, but they're at home. Second quarter rolls around. I think they're going to pick up their play. By the way, Joe Thuney is going to be starting at left tackle, according to reports. He's their all-pro left guard. But as you know, the Chiefs have had a lot of trouble with the tackle position, so they were forced to move Thuney to left tackle. Looks like he's going to be lined up out there, and he's done an admirable job out there. Look, the Texans have Joe Mixon banged up for this game. He is going to play, but he's not going to be 100%. They played last week. I think their edge rushers could get Patrick Mahomes some trouble, but look, Patrick Mahomes is one of the best there is, if not one of the greatest ever, in terms of sensing when that rush is coming, with the exception of the Super Bowl against the Bucs, where he was running for his life. And I think he's going to extend plays. Yeah, thanks, Todd Bowles. You're the one who engineered that mastermind, although some fans have forgotten about that. I think he'll extend some plays. Having Hollywood Brown back is going to be big. I think he's an X factor. I'm going to take the Chiefs, and I think they pull away late, so I will lay the 8.5 points as well.
Now, I don't know who's counting, but I am. I mean, we're talking 21 hours, 55 minutes, 53 seconds until kickoff of this game here tomorrow night. Really excited for that. Obviously, I should say tomorrow afternoon, 4:30 kickoff.
Yes, sir.
Tomorrow night, Washington Commanders take on the Detroit Lions there in the Motor City, where the Lions are 9-point favorites. 9. The over-under is 55.5.
9. Yeah, it's a big over-under. And I think both teams will put up some points in this one. I love how the Lions are situated here. I think nobody needed home field advantage more than the Detroit Lions because of all the players that they've had on IR, 18 of them at one point, and most of them on the defensive side. Now, the good news for the Lions is they've had 2 weeks to prepare. They're at home. They're getting healthier. Alex Anzalone came back. They're going to get Terry and Arnold back. They're going to get David Montgomery back. They're going to be locked and loaded and ready to unload on the Washington Commanders. I don't see this game being very close. I think the Lions could put up 35 to 40 points in this game in the blink of an eye. And I'm going to take the Lions minus the points, and I think the over will also hit on this as well. And look, for the Lions, there's a sense of urgency here. That window is going to be closing. Why? Because their two coordinators are going to get other jobs. I think Aaron Glenn is going to get the Jets job or the Saints job, and it looks like Ben Johnson will have to choose. He'll have his pick of the Bears job, the Raiders job, or the Jaguars job if he wants it. So they're going to lose both coordinators. So if you're a Lions fan, you better go for it this year, and you better win it this year because you're losing both of those guys.
Those are Saturday's picks. Now on to Sunday, Tom. We've got the Rams taking on Philadelphia at Philly, where the Eagles are 6-point favorites at home. The over-under 43.5 on the Hard Rock Bet up.
Well, weather could be a factor, and I know the Rams will have emotion in their corner. The Eagles ripped them up when they met back in the regular season. I think this Rams defense has gotten better. Jared Verse was almost unblockable last week as the Rams picked up 9 sacks in the win over Sam Darnold and the Vikings. I'm going to take the Rams. I think they're the sentimental choice because of what's going on in Southern California. I think they're going to play inspired football. Matthew Stafford is a winner. I think if they can establish the run themselves with Kyron Williams and work in Puka Nacua, Tyler Higbee's going to play, the pride of Eastlake, and Cooper Kupp is going to be a factor as well. I just don't like the way the Eagles go about their business. I don't. I'm going to take the Rams plus the points, and I think the Rams can win this game. And I'm going to take the under as well.
Yeah, Rams are scary, in my opinion. And I hope they do beat Philadelphia on Sunday. Now, Sunday Night Football, we've got a big matchup. Two marquee quarterbacks between Lamar Jackson and Josh Allen. It's the Baltimore Ravens at Buffalo Bills, where the Bills are actually a 1.5-point underdog. That line has changed since Ronnie Lane was here in studio about 25 minutes ago, maybe 30 minutes ago. Now it's a 1.5-point spread in favor of the Ravens. The over-under is 51.5.
That means there's money coming in on the Ravens. I think they're a confident group. They beat up the Bills pretty good. They met them back in week 4. That was a long time ago. The Bills have gotten some guys back. Matt Milano's back. Look, Josh Allen is a wonderful player, and I think offensively, James Cook, really good running back. They rely on a number of different receivers, but with the frigid temperatures, and I know Buffalo's played in this weather, so they're used to it. I don't know if Lamar Jackson likes the cold weather, but there's something driving Lamar. And when he stepped up there yesterday and he said, listen, Josh Allen, whatever, he's not my friend. He's not going to be my friend. I'm trying to beat him on the field. Lamar Jackson is all business because he knows that with Derrick Henry there, he's got about as good of a chance to win a Super Bowl as he has in any point in his career. And I think Derrick Henry is the X factor. And when it's that cold and single-digit temperatures in terms of a wind chill with some snow involved, some gusty winds, guys will be making business decisions in the second half of that game when they see Derrick Henry running downhill at them. At 250 pounds, he can run right over you, around you, past you. He's going to be the main difference maker here. I'm going to take the Ravens in this game. I'm going to take the Ravens to win, and I think it goes under because of the wintry conditions.
Who do you want to see win, Tom?
I really like both teams. I like Josh Allen quite a bit, actually. I think he's a great dude. I respect the Bills fan base. I know there are a lot of Bills fans that listen to the show, by the way.
Mm-hmm.
I'm kind of rooting for Lamar, honestly.
Wow. Oh, I thought you were going to say, yeah, I love Josh Allen. I'm pulling for the Bills. Then you just go the whole other way. You're pulling for Lamar.
The unfortunate part about this is that one of these teams will be crushed after this game. Crushed. Because both teams have Super Bowl aspirations. And one of these teams will have their season come to an end, and they will not even make it to a conference championship game. So one of these fan bases will be absolutely decimated on Sunday night. And I think it's going to be Buffalo, but you know what? They're kind of used to it, aren't they?
Oh man.
Come on.
It's safe to say,
what?
though.
No. You insulted him a little bit.
A loss for the Baltimore Ravens would mean that much more for Lamar, right? Obviously, he just can't get the job done in the postseason.
Well, the pressure's on him, and Josh Allen's got pressure as well. He's got a lot of pressure to win in the playoffs, and they're at home. I just think Derrick Henry is the equalizer. He's the guy that tips the scales in Baltimore's favor. Plus, Baltimore's defense, really good at stopping the run. You got to be able to run it and stop it. I think if you want to go far, that's why I had high hopes for the Buccaneers, unfortunately. So I think the Ravens win this game and they move forward. Don't we have one more game?
Wait, I think that's it.
No, I think you skipped over one game there, Chris Mathis.
We hit on Houston, Kansas City, Washington, Detroit, Rams, Philadelphia, Baltimore, Buffalo.
That's it?
Yeah.
We went through all of them?
Yeah, we went through all of them.
I picked the Rams. I picked Baltimore. Okay, yeah, I picked Detroit. Yes, all right.
Now, I was about to say, man, am I missing a fifth game out here?
No, I wish it was a fifth game. I wish
should be the Buccaneers.
Right?
The
Buccaneers. They expanded the divisional playoff format, and the Buccaneers are playing. Fire them cannons. It's the Bucs and the Vikings in the consolation game.
Man, I wonder, this is a hypothetical. I know we got to hit a break, but I wonder if the Bucs would do this, right? If they were invited by the NFL to play in a so-called fifth playoff game, even though they lost to Washington. But Bowles is playing for his job, coaching for his job. If he loses, he's fired. Liam Cohen gets the job. Do you think Bowles would say yes?
No. What's wrong with you?
I'm just asking.
Bowles wouldn't say. He wouldn't say yes. Come on.
He'd probably say something like,
"Not at this time."
Not at this time. No, they're definitely not at this time. You know. And
okay, I'm gonna say this.
I'm going to say this one time. I'm not playing a consolation game with my job on the line. So there you have it. Those are my
Tom,
picks.
we love you.
Oh, thank you. Thanks, Coach. What are your picks? 888-546-4620. Text at 82945. You know,
It's exciting.
it is exciting. Divisional playoff weekend is exciting. All right, when we come back, final thoughts to wrap up this week on a beautiful Friday. The final
Staples.
The Drive with TKras, 95.3 WDAE and AM 620. The Final Drive.
We got breaking news out of the world of baseball. Roki Sasaki-san. He was the much heralded pitcher out of Japan. There were a number of teams, including the Rays, who were vying for his services, but he just announced on his Instagram that he is signing with the LA Dodgers. The rich get richer. Eric Neander couldn't compete with his old boss, Andrew Freeman, and the Dodgers. So let me get this straight. The Dodgers win the World Series. Shohei Ohtani is going to start pitching for them next year. They signed another former Ray and Blake Snell to go along with another former Ray and Tyler Glasnow. And their starting rotation looks like this for 2025 potentially. Shohei Ohtani, Tyler Glasnow, Blake Snell, Yoshi Yamamoto-san, and the other Japanese sensation that they paid through the nose for last year, and they just signed Hiroki Sasaki-san. Give me a freaking break, dude. How in the world can anybody compete against the Dodgers this coming season?
The Final Drive.
And this is one of the reasons why I hate baseball. Because it's not like the NFL. And this is why the NFL is so great at what they do. And I get it. The gambling aspect is part of the NFL's popularity. But any team can rise up and be competitive because everyone plays from the same even playing field. Salary cap, if you have the right guys in charge, if you have the right owner, if you have the right general manager who's delegating authority, if you have the right CEO/head coach, then any team, any one of the 32, except for the Jets, of course, can be a contender. But in baseball, that's not the case. Because there's the highest of highs in the high rent district, and then you got the teams like living on the poverty level, like the Rays, like the Pirates, and to a lesser extent, the Oakland A's, and they're not even the Oakland A's anymore. Now they're the Athletics playing in a minor league ballpark in Sacramento. At least they have something in common with the Rays. But the A's have actually spent some money this offseason, which I was surprised to see, even though they're in transition in moving from Oakland, and they've already done that, to Sacramento, where they're going to be playing in a minor league ballpark for a couple of years until that place in Vegas is ready. But the Dodgers are just unbelievably stacked from top to bottom. How in the world could you compete with these guys? How could you do it? They have former MVPs up and down their lineup, and now they have an incredible all-star pitching rotation. And they can go out and buy anybody that they want, whenever they want, however they want to do it. How could you compete with that?
The New York Yankees? The New York Yankees!
The Yankees can do the same thing, except when it comes to Juan Soto. 15 minutes after the World Series ended, he's like, hey, I'm ready to talk to everybody, even the Rays. Oh, that was a red flag, and I said it the very next day. And I said that the Mets would get him and that Steve Cohen would not be outbid. Boom and boom. That exactly happened. And, of course, the Yankees, embarrassed and humiliated by the fact that they lost Juan Soto to the Mets, they went on a free agent spending spree as well. Signing Max Fried, going out and getting Paul Goldschmidt, getting Bellinger, getting the Brewers closer, Devin Williams. I mean, they've been going nuts. Nuts. The Red Sox have kind of went on a spree of their own, if you haven't noticed, in the offseason. They traded for Garrett Crochet, who's an incredible starting pitcher. And if you're the Rays, man, you're fighting an uphill battle. We talked about them today. Marc Topkin joined us earlier with Ronnie Lane in the happy hour. In case you missed that interview, we talked about the Rays' on-field moves, the start times at Steinbrenner Field, as well as the article involving Stu Sternberg and ownership that was penned by Ken Rosenthal. We discuss all of that today. 95.3 WDAE.com. So check it out there.
Hey, Tom, I did have something for the mailbag. I know I'm really late here, but I forgot to throw this in there.
What?
It comes from Paul in St. Pete, who's actually a truck driver. He was the last contestant for Beat the Pro. He did not win last week, Tom. However, he said, Friday mailbox, I got insulted on the radio. The Bucs are out of the playoffs. They got beat by the so-called pro. He got beat by the so-called pro, he says, talking about you. His dream vacation is now in the hopper. He knows it's not Little League, but can he at least get a participation trophy?
Sure.
Yay.
What does he want?
But he's a
well, why is he mad
trucker.
Why is he mad at me?
I don't know.
I didn't mention Kirk Cousins. Is that the guy who kept mentioning Kirk Cousins?
I think it might have been. I think